Altmaier steps up, drives the ball, and it is intercepted. J.T. Woods again. That is his second of the night.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Cryer from the corner. And it rattles home.
Wow. Little TO, baby.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
They go to the eye. Play action. Bohannon back in the end zone. And a touchdown for Baylor. Drake Dabney's second catch of the drive, and it's good for 6.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So they'll take that penalty, not the play, make it a 3rd and 5. Prescott has time over the middle, caught for the touchdown, Amari Cooper.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Friday afternoon, college game day. Their big bus is outside of the Farrell Center. I drove by there today on LaSalle, and of course, as they prepare for the broadcast tomorrow, Kansas and Baylor. It's not until 7. Women play Kansas at 2. College game day, ESPN, Reese Davis, Holly Rowe, Seth Greenberg, Jay Billis. We've had them on the show this week. Obviously, LaFonso Ellis, among others, Dan Schulman, in a game in which Kansas is trying to pretty much all but wrap up the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech still says, hold on, and Baylor still says, hold on. Baylor's got back-to-back games, guys. It's going to be interesting. Kansas, who beat them up, and then turn around Monday with the game against Texas in what is the last game ever played at the Frank Irwin Center.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe that they're not going to be playing games there anymore.
I think they're excited about that.
I think so.
I think they're anytime you can move into something new. I've been to the Frank Irwin Center. I haven't been in there recently, but I always think of it not as the home of the University of Texas, and they've had some teams, the TJ Ford and many others. I always thought of it because it hosted the high school basketball state tournament for many, many years, and they would have bigger crowds, as you could imagine, because it was a state tournament, and that's when Texas basketball really started to flourish back. I would think in the 80s when they started flooding college programs with elite players, and that was always a fun, great 3 or 4 days down in Austin. So, do you believe, Craig and Paul, in 254-339-1122, the chat room, also on 365 Sports YouTube, do you believe in revenge? Do you believe that even really comes into play? Is that word overrated when you lose like Baylor did at Kansas a couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago?
I don't think revenge is the right word for this one. I think it's redemption for this one because they played so bad in Lawrence. So bad. That is not indicative. Like, they lose games. You take the other 4 games they've lost, they were in those games until the end of the game. They had a chance to win all of them. It was over at 12-2.
It really was.
It was over at 12-2. And because of that, I don't think revenge, they can't, revenge is when you lose a tight one, something maybe controversial happened, maybe there was some pushing and shoving, maybe it wasn't, it doesn't sit well with you because of that. No, this is about redemption. This is about showing them who you really are, because who Baylor really is not a team that loses by 30. And they got so stomped in that game. Yeah, if they're thinking about getting revenge, man, Kansas didn't do anything wrong to them. Kansas just started the car and kept driving.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I think it's more redemption than revenge. what are you going to be vengeful about? Getting your ass kicked? Cool Hollywood story. That's not how it typically works. So, no, I don't buy the revenge thing here. I just buy the respect and redemption thing, like you said. It should be an interesting game. I'd say fun, but then again, I don't know. They could go out and get beat by 30. They could go out and do the same thing they did last time for all we know. So I'm expecting a better effort and performance and game overall. And I don't know if I'm expecting a Baylor win, but I am expecting it to be a game where you're at the very end wondering who is going to win. Certainly not and 10 minutes into the game already knowing who the winner is like last time. Like that would be massively disappointing. And hopefully with what should be a good crowd and a little bit of buzz because college game day and all that comes with that, and just the impact of that win and what it means in the standings. I mean, there's plenty to play for besides, we need a measure of revenge. So, yeah, they've got a big opportunity tomorrow. Like I said, there's a little bit of a buzz building, and we'll see if they can follow through. If this was last year's team, I think everybody would be predicting a win. They just had that edge about them. This team doesn't really have that edge, so it's kind of a question of what to expect.
Well, there's no question. The night tomorrow you have Oklahoma State at Oklahoma, Texas at West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech plays TCU in Fort Worth, and Kansas and Baylor tomorrow night, 7 o'clock on the big ESPN. And then Baylor plays Texas Monday, and then they still have a game against Iowa State. So there's games left. Not everybody. Some teams have played as many as 15 games. Baylor is 11-4, Texas Tech 11-4, and Kansas at 12-2. Also, interesting, there's a new bracketology out, and that depends on who you want to look at. They're all a little bit different. We'll get into that a little bit. And somehow, right now, the Big 12 looks pretty. I'll get into that right now. Number one seeds, this is from through last night's games. And this is why tomorrow is big for Kansas, Baylor, Texas Tech, whoever else, and even UT that is a part of the conversation when it comes to a top four seed. Number one seeds, Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, and Auburn. Number two seeds, Duke, Baylor, Kentucky, and Purdue. 3 seeds, Texas Tech, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Villanova. And the 4 seeds are Ohio State, Illinois. Ohio State's kind of new to this conversation. Illinois, Providence, and UCLA. Texas Tech is a 3 seed, and then Joe Lunardi, and again, that doesn't mean he's like the God-given guy, but they're usually pretty close, although we've seen things change a little bit. He had Texas Tech kind of drop a notch or two in the number 3 line of a number 3 seed. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know, especially given the 2 wins that they have over Baylor and a win over Kansas. But I think for Baylor staying on the 2 line is mostly because of what they did before the conference season started, and they played a really, really strong, non-conference schedule, and decimated a good Villanova team, and looked like the best team in the country. And then injuries happen, and it's different. So I don't know. That still kind of surprises me that you have a team that beat you twice below you on the.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sure you can point to the non-conference schedule or whatever, but I don't care. I don't see why Texas Tech should be behind Baylor. You can tell me, well, Baylor had more quadrant 1 blah, blah, blahs over the last 5 months. Okay, fine. Texas Tech played them twice and beat them twiise. So, I mean, and I understand, okay, Baylor's got these wins or whatever. I've seen them play now twice. Texas Tech is a better team than Baylor. They're 2-0 against them. So, yeah, I don't get that. I really don't. I understand that in basketball, it's not a who's hot right now necessarily. It's a what you've done the entire time. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. But I also think there should be some merit to where you are right now. And it seems like Baylor's getting a big benefit of the doubt in a lot of these polls, because I understand they're winning more than they're losing still, but there's a whole lot of, what they did earlier in the year before the injuries, and, what they did last year and then this year before the injuries. And it's like, before the injuries was like 6 weeks ago, and this has been a different team for the last 6 weeks. So how you're justifying because of what they could be or what they did 6 weeks before as why they're still at number 2, I mean, that's just, I wouldn't view it that way, but I understand that that's how they do it, I suppose.
Ken Palm, and I'm going over all the different ones, so we're going through the levels of this. And again, 254-339-1122, and the chat room is open on YouTube, 365 Sports. Baylor's 4, Kansas 5, Houston 6, Texas Tech 7. That's in the Ken Palm ratings, which is all sorts of analytical stuff. In the Jerry Palm, he's got Baylor as a number 2 seed. He's got Kansas a number 1 seed, and then Texas Tech a number 3 seed. So that's 2 different bracketologies. Then Ken Palm. Now let's go to this. The quadrant 1s, which you mentioned, but is a big deal. Now, it's not everything. Kansas is 10-3 against quadrant 1 teams. And again, that's changed because teams move up or you eventually play them. Baylor's 10-4. Texas Tech is 7-6. But they have a 5-1 record against UT, Kansas, and Baylor. But 7-6 overall. And, of course, they haven't lost at home. They have looked like they're the better team. And you can move into the but stuff, but if this does matter, that Baylor's 10-4, Texas Tech 7-6, and Kansas is at 10-3. So if Baylor beats Kansas, and that's if, they would end up at least through tomorrow with a better quadrant 1 record of 11-4 compared to 10-4. And then that might bump them up. Who knows? They probably still would need to beat Texas and whoever else. I don't know if they can get to a number 1 seed.
I think that Baylor, to get to number 1 seed, I think they essentially have to win out the regular season. But I do think that to stay where they are, they just don't need to lose to Iowa State or the teams that they should beat, down the stretch. Win the games you're favored in and do that. And, of course, beating Kansas tomorrow would go a long way to do that. By
the way, the Ohio State in the conversation, they beat Illinois last night. Did you see Brad Underwood throw a fit? He was mad about a call, and he got his – he didn't wait. He didn't get the technical foul and ejected because he incited the crowd by doing this, like Dan Hurley was ejected because he had only had 1 tee. He got the second one, and he made it count. He made it count, Illinois' head coach, as the Illini fell to Ohio State as well. So we're down to the last few days of the college basketball regular season. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Baylor and Kansas, the women play each other at 2. Now, on this day in sports, February 25th, SMU got the death penalty. On this day in sports,
1987.
1989, Jerry Jones officially bought the Cowboys. On this date in 1994, the Big 12 officially announced their conference and who was in. How much that's changed over the years. Also nationally, this is from our buddy Chuck Cooperstein. Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, knocked out Sonny Liston in Miami Beach. Pete Maravich scored 68 against the Knicks, and Slapshot, the movie, released in theaters. So those are some dates of what today, but the SMU death penalty and Jerry Jones buying the Cowboys and the Big 12 being formed, which of course has been, popped around differently since that time. That's 3 pretty big deals on February 25th.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if Slapshot's top 5 Paul Newman or if it has to be top 10. I mean, he has so many good ones.
I don't know.
Slapshot, Cool Hand Luke, Butch of Sunday. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. The Sting.
I didn't even know who was in the movie, but I'd heard of the movie. I wasn't sure who was in the movie at all. From, by the way, ZS77, glad to take a break from the world for a few hours. I agree with you. And also, today in our studios, Jack McKenzie just left. He's on his way over to do a Baylor media session, and then the Game Day media session. Also today, we have Armstrong Sims back from recovery. His back went out on him. Is that right, Armstrong? And then Faith is back in. She wants to do a monologue or an editorial about the Farrell Center not being available for practices today or something like that. She's going to get in trouble. And then also Emery Winter is here today as well.
I'm sure Faith, as a dedicated athlete, will say, yes, I'm upset that we didn't get to practice the same way. But I do think that
she didn't say it.
Most athletes would be like, oh, we don't practice? All right,
it's not bad, especially when it's cold. And hey, Paul, yesterday on your top 5 from Stephen Shook, the top 5 at 5, all 3 of you were spot on regarding Cincinnati. Evan Prater, the quarterback, is a 4-star who played at Cincinnati's Wyoming High School. A 6'5" pro-style quarterback. We were talking about them as the teams, what their next step, whatever. Fickle has done some really good recruiting the last couple of years. Should improve coming to the Big 12, which should. And then also, very few of the players that are now coming into the opportunities to play have taken few snaps, offensive line, tight end, NFL prospects. But, again, they will have speed. They always have speed. Assistant coaches coming and going as part of getting rated over the last year or two. So Stephen Shook watched last night. Didn't get a chance to watch the show when we were live, but we appreciate that. One other future Big 12 program, Houston. Their president mentioning that the Board of Regents yesterday approved a much-needed resource, a new football operations development center for the Cougars. They have an indoor facility now. You heard that before with what Baylor's trying to build, and UH doing it, U of H, along with others as well.
Get it done before you get in the conference. That way you don't have to, be behind the 8 ball in keeping up with the Joneses. So
those are a couple of notes from future Big 12 teams who are coming in. Cincinnati, they're recruiting with Paul's top 5 yesterday to close out the show, and then also with what Houston continues to do. That president seems to have it going. She seems to kind of have everybody. She kind of seems to be, they've got Tillman, Fertitta, and others with money, but and Pessman is the AD, but she kind of seems like she knows what she's doing and has them on the right track.
What's the rule? President, AD, coaches, they have to be in
like
line,
a spine,
top
like a good
down.
Spine, yeah. All right, what have I missed? Anything at all? Anything else? I think that's it. We have today, we have Logan Hall. He played high school football at Belton. He's at the University of Houston. That's why I had that as the last story. He will join us today at 5 o'clock. He's an NFL prospect, and he is thought in some mock drafts as a number 1 pick. And some good information. He actually played football at Belton a couple of different years. He used to be like 6'5" or 6'6" and 210 pounds, real thin, and then kind of started to build a little bit more beef, and then he went to Houston, and now he's a grown man. And a very, very much a guy that is a very high prospect for the upcoming NFL draft as well. All right, we have Matt Tate, covers Kansas. We've had him on before. He'll join us here in 12 or 15 minutes. We are going to rerun the Bob Bowlesby interview, right? Is that right?
Yes.
We are going to run that today at 5:30. 5:25 or so, because he covered a lot of the bases. What did we not get to ask him anything yesterday? What did we miss? Anything with him yesterday?
Craig had one. Didn't you have one that you wanted to ask him, Craig, that we thought about later?
I don't know what that was. No, I can't think of anything that we didn't touch on. That everything, we hit transfer portal, we hit name, image, likeness, or whatever, expansion, OU Texas. I don't know. I think we pretty much covered everything.
I thought we did, yeah. The money, TV stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll think about it some more. Thought there might have been one thing maybe that missed out on, but right now, no, I'm at a loss for what that would have been, yeah.
Brian Etheridge, grab a tank of gasoline and light it with a match, and let's heat this thing up. Also, Bob Williams, War Eagle, we're 25-3, but Bob Williams seems to be a little bit worried with Tennessee playing Auburn tomorrow, and Auburn's dropped a couple after being the hottest team in college basketball in the last 2 or 3 months as well. And also from Lee Buttercup on the Ken Palm bracketology and all that with where Texas Tech, Baylor, and Kansas are. Texas Tech has fewer quad one wins and a losing road record. They did sweep us, Baylor, as Lee Buttercup. But maybe that's what Lenardi and others are thinking. I do agree that right now, though, Texas Tech is better than Baylor. If you are going to be someone that uses head-to-head once, then you should use it again. Now, in basketball, there's a lot more games than the 12 or 13 college football games, where head-to-head in football is, I think, even more supposed to be even more important. But there's no question Texas Tech
until it's not.
Well, until it's not.
Until the argument falls in on itself, and then you just have to be like, well, the lunar cycles really are out of whack, and everybody knows that Alabama's better. And
you know why
in
college football that happens? Because it's so opinionated how they come up with what they come up with. In college basketball, eventually there's a 68-team tournament. Eventually, it doesn't matter if somebody swept you or not. They make be a higher seed or doesn't matter. You have the NFL playoffs. You might have lost twice to a team in your division and then play them in the playoffs, win the game. Doesn't matter what they did. You have a chance to overcome. And Baylor might have a chance. They might meet Texas Tech. Who knows? In the Big 12 men's basketball tournament up in Kansas City. But they have been beaten by Texas Tech in both times. That first time kind of started that 2-game slide. And then when they went to Lubbock, it was a very competitive game, and then Texas Tech in the second half just slowly wore down Baylor and took control of that game. All right, when we come back, Matt Tate covers Kansas. Everybody in the studio, although Jack just left for the Farrell Center to do a lot of media sessions. 254-339-1122, Sikkim. 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, a hidden gem. They always got cool stuff going on. I've talked about the event they had a week ago with the makers of Happy Dad Hard Seltzer. We're there signing autographs and selling out of their product in just a little over an hour. Not only that, they've got the greatest high-end bourbons. They've got the best craft beer selection. Whatever you need at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, if they don't have it, they can get it. And if they can't get it, you probably can't get it. It's probably not available in this state. It's probably something from Portugal that you had once, and it's going to be hard to get over here. That's what they do at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Great customer service, that speedy drive-through window that you won't even I'm surprised you even have to stop the car. That's how fast they are at the drive-through window. Now, you do have to stop the car. Don't try to roll through it. That would be irresponsible. But that's how good they are at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Save big during the President's Day sales event at Allen Samuels. The new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L has total values of $2,000. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop the new car inventory for power, performance, style, and reliability today from their huge new car and truck inventory only at Allen Samuels in Waco. Now's the time to drive the amazing Jeep Grand Cherokee L you want.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will hear from Matt Tate, sports editor, covers Kansas basketball for the Lawrence Journal. world and also at KU Sports. He'll join us here momentarily. Of course, we've discussed Baylor and what they've dealt with injuries. Of course, it just seemed like every week something new, or about the time somebody else is healthy, somebody else goes out. Kansas has had to deal with theirs. Remy Martin was supposed to be a star for them. We know that he has not played much. And then McCormick, who is kind of like almost, you think, a Baji and all of what they have, Brown. But, McCormick's kind of that X factor for them. And so he's out with that problem as well. And we'll find out more from Matt what he's heard, the update on what happens tomorrow as well, as he re-aggravated a foot. So we have L.J. Cryer foot, and then you have David McCormick with a foot and his problem as well. The last time these two teams played, it was ugly. And Paul mentioned it. It was like immediately. It wasn't 2 minutes or so into that game, it seemed like it was over. Like they just had nothing in the tank. Nothing. And Kansas, we can sit there and say Baylor played poorly. They absolutely did. Kansas made them play poorly. They boat raced them off the top, and that was one of the few times early in a game where it was a knockout punch and you couldn't get off the canvas. And then, Scott Drew had the tee. It just didn't matter. There's no emotion as they got drilled.
It was a knockout punch, also due in large part to the fact that the crowd was absolutely lit the entire time.
But when are they not at Allen?
They are, but that was one of the things that you just knew that Christian Brown had that dunk. The crowd got so loud and they never stopped. It's one of those things that you can't. And what are you supposed to do? Baylor would have had to in that game, which is why I say redemption, not revenge, to end that crowd's fervor. They would have had to make 8 threes in a row. The only way it could have shut them up. And so you were never going to go on a run that was ever going to get them to be oh, it's not our day. No, it was their day from that moment.
Yeah, no question about it. And so, you know what? The Farrell Center could be lit tomorrow. Kansas will bring their fans. They always do, no matter where they are. It's a national brand when it comes to college basketball. And tomorrow night, when that place opens up, when they and again, it's just a great basketball game. I will say this, the one thing I noticed about KU following that game, because remember they beat Baylor in that post-COVID game before they had to go to West Virginia to win to seal the regular season conference title, which Kansas has owned for almost 2 decades. I did see what I thought was almost a little bit of that frustrating, bitter, we kind of got ourselves back, that Baylor has bothered Kansas fans because of what they've been able to do, what they did 2 years ago as far as make the run before the tournament was shut down, and then to win it all last year. Because when you are Kansas, that would be like Kentucky watching Louisville go win it. If not same state, but when you are one of those teams and then you see somebody else go do that, that bothers you because it's been a while since KU won. 03?
It's 08. It's been 08. But, here's what I think happened at Kansas, and this is why their fans, I can understand why they're upset, because 2020 really felt like it was going to be their year. Baylor, I know, and you can see it in if you get a chance to see our documentary on it, Road to Joy. The Baylor team really felt that they would have won in 2020 as well, and COVID derailed it. But they had a lot of injuries that time, nagging things that were slowing them down. And Kansas was really playing well at the end of the year. So I think that not only did you miss your shot because of COVID to really make the deepest run you made in a long time if you're Kansas, then the next year you have a conference rival that comes and has their best team ever in the history of their university by a long shot in wins and is so great. So that probably has to sting a little bit more because you missed your shot and then a conference rival comes in and takes the place that you thought you were going to have that last year before. So, yeah, I get it. And they still don't have this Kansas team. You heard we've had different analysts say it. This is one of Bill Self's better coaching jobs because he got a number 1 seed and a team that's got great Final Four potential, and he doesn't have 6 NBA players like he's had in the past on certain teams. He's got 2 or 3 right now.
From Biscuits and Gravy, amazing what 5 level 1. Let's see. This is from Biscuits and Gravy. Amazing, though, what 5 level 1 unpunished NCAA findings can do for a program.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen with that.
Talking NCAA crap.
Yeah,
by the way,
every the NCAA cyclical, man. If it's not you, it's going to be you eventually. And the other thing is, look at all the stuff that Oklahoma State and Kansas did wrong. Now it's almost essentially legal.
I don't think if you've had an NCAA punishment in the last year, you deserve to be talking about anybody's NCAA punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's kind of being hypocritical.
Yeah.
Baylor had their punishment come down after a 5-year investigation earlier this year, so it's not like they've been immune to those as well. I know it's not the basketball program, but still, if we're going to talk about NCAA, whatever. I understand what you're saying, though, but I don't think I'd go that route as far as trash talk.
Fans surely will never listen to that advice. That's for sure.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, you're kind of look in the mirror. I mean, you had an NCAA investigation as well, and again, it wasn't the exact same thing. It wasn't the basketball program per se, but they've had those issues too in the past. So I'm just saying, I don't think it's when you've been in the wheelhouse as well here lately to be throwing stones.
I also, and look, I'm not trying to let Kansas off the hook if they did anything wrong, but for all those NCAA violations they committed, did they win a title with any of them? Did any of those players help them win the Big 12 conference? No. In fact, 2 of them never played for them at all.
Wait a minute. Those players never won a Big 12 title?
The 3 guys that were there didn't help them win it because they benched Silvio De Sousa for. I mean, they held him out forever. He hardly helped them all. And then the year he did play, they didn't win the Big 12 title. And then Diallo and Billy Preston never really played. So, it's kind of like Baylor fans saying, "Well, we're getting punished because of Sam Ukuwachu." Yeah, never played.
Yeah.
So they did. They responded to it. Did they respond to it in the right amount of time in the right way? Well, that's for the NCAA to find out. But are they polishing a national championship trophy because of Diallo, Billy Preston, and Silvio De Sousa? No,
they're not. From Lee Buttercup, I also tell my TCU friends that the reason they got left out years ago was not because of football. It was about politics, which we had the Bob Bowlesby interview yesterday. And no, we didn't ask him about it because we've asked him about it every time for the last 6 or 7 years. If they had great law school like Baylor, history might have been different. I'm not sure what that means, Lee. The law school would have nothing to do with the college football championship committee. I'm not sure.
She was talking about
getting into the Big 12.
Into the Big 12. No, and that's going to be debated. In fact, I brought this up.
Why is that such a big topic still? It's been like 20-something years, and people are still debating over why this team got in 1996 versus, and I mean,
I can see
Ann
that it's
Richards
a scar.
and but I don't understand
but you're
why
in now.
But that's what I'm saying is I don't understand why that's still such a point of contention for some people. I still see fans who have been in the Big 12 for years who still argue over how that Tech fans arguing over Ann Richards' role versus, and it's but you're in. Who cares?
And they've always
who
been.
cares?
Yeah.
How it happened? You're in it, and if you're TCU. Okay, be angry about the several years you weren't in, but you've been in for nearly a decade at this point, so who cares?
I'll tell you this, that yesterday or last night, whenever the Bob Bowlesby interview was put up in the premium section of Sikkim365.com, one of the last comments that I saw was ask him about how many champions he thought there was in 2014.
Yeah, there's that too.
Okay, you know what? The one thing TCU did do that year, they won their damn bowl game.
Yeah.
Baylor could have really been really highly ranked, kind of like last year, and they blew a tire. All 4 of them went flat in the fourth quarter against Michigan State in the Cotton Bowl.
To be very clear, I'm not focusing in on anybody who just, anybody individually, but I see that on Twitter all the time still. It rises up and it's no, it was Ann Richards did this, and then there's a Baylor fan who will jump in and say, no, actually it was, and then they'll tell
Bob Bullock.
But it's Bob Bullock. And it's what year are we living in right now? What year is this?
It's very similar to Cowboys fans not liking Jerry Jones because he fired Tom Landry, not because he then subsequently led them to 3 Super Bowls as an owner and then hasn't figured out how to do it since then. You should be madder at him for the last 25 years than the first 3.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I don't know. It's just. Curious to me. That's all. It's just curious to me why that's still such a big point of contention. But I guess people just carry grudges because, obviously that was a big deal to TCU to not get in at the time. And for everybody else who's had their dalliance that didn't work out, I guess, to get in the Big 12 when they wanted to. So, it's a wound that hasn't healed, I suppose. And I can understand that. But I just feel like I've seen that more in the last year just pop up randomly. And maybe it's because of all the expansion talk, so it's just drummed up old feelings. I'm sure that's probably a lot to do with it. But, yeah, when I see somebody, really, they won't move past that. Wow, it's been 20-something years. At this point, I think you could could move on from that. But I think that maybe it's just old feelings getting drummed up.
Well, let's read some of the chat comments. And Jace Pierce would be nice to have, by the way, tomorrow with both Kendall and Sohan back for next year, the freshman. Not sure that happens, not if one or both might not leave. From Ray, the glass houses rule never applies to chat rooms or any social media, apparently.
Yeah, you're right.
And then...
And again, I wasn't trying to single anybody out. I've seen that quite a bit. That's why I reacted the way I did.
And then also Jace Pierce, the whole Ann Richards debate. Last night flanking, Brian Etheridge, butthurt, going to be butthurt. Also from Jace, Rice had to be the school that has gone down the furthest post to Southwest Conference. They aren't even relevant in baseball anymore and have had some of the worst facilities. And then Brandon... Yeah, here we go again. And then biscuits and gravy, just because it happened before Craig was born doesn't mean it doesn't matter. He's with a heart as well.
Yeah, and it didn't, but yeah, I just don't see why it matters at this point. But yeah, I'm not upset about it by any means. But despite what my tone sounds like.
One of the common denominators, and I think this is fair, even when they were irrelevant for so long after the Big 12 was formed, there's a lot of people just kind of don't like Baylor. And now they have to just kind of suck it up because they're winning a lot and they're winning big things. And so I can see TCU because they feel like TCU and Baylor are kind of the same thing. But like you said, it was 1996 when that league actually was formed, and TCU is back in and have owned Baylor.
Well, it is
since they got back in football.
Yeah, in football. It is interesting that there are different tales, though. Even with all the information out there, you'll still get, and I guess it's like anything else, especially social media, all the disinformation. I mean, shoot, just look at anything online right now and you can find disinformation. But, there is all that information out there. There's been many articles written on how exactly that unfolded, and that still doesn't prevent you from that topic coming up and people going, well, Ann Richards politically, and like you would think that she was like single-handedly forcing Baylor into the Big 12 and kicking others away from the opportunity. And it's like, no, that's not exactly how the history went. There's information out there, but that doesn't stop it from being the tale. And I guess that's just how stories are in like world history is, there's the accurate version and there's the version that people, hear, and then that's what sticks with them or whatnot. But yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than just Ann Richards, forcing Baylor onto the Big 12 or whatever.
Steven Snook, be a Cincinnati fan watching the BCS eligible team in the Big East and then ended up in the AAC. Thank goodness for the Big 12. Jace, TCU has owned Baylor in football, but no, they haven't.
But they haven't owned the conference or in any other sport.
Yeah, any other sport. No, football they have. And, man, they have kind of taken the step backwards, and hence even the one who everyone kissed his ring for a while because of his success and because he was us against the world mentality that Gary Patterson brought, he's gone. He's gone, and now he's coaching against TCU and everyone else starting with Texas next year.
If you're Baylor, you got to hope that maybe there was just something to do with Gary Patterson, like some curse of some sort, because there was just some inexplicable wins. Like there were wins that you totally understood because, okay, Baylor's 1-11 team or Baylor's 2-7 team or, like those types of years were understandable to an extent. But yeah, even like this year when they were clearly a better overall team. I mean, look at the end results and, look at the fact that TCU's coach was gone midseason. I mean, they had no business beating Baylor and they did. And they did it, and Gary Patterson helped out with it behind the scenes or whatever. And, he had just departed before that and stuck around to beat Baylor. That goes to show you just kind of the bad feelings there is there. But I do wonder with him gone if there is like a little lessening of that stigma or that curse or whatever it is to where they could have like Alabama's best team and take on an average TCU team and they would eke out a win by like a field goal. You know what I mean? Like it's just something about that matchup that doesn't matter how much better they might be or how equal they are. They just don't they don't play well. They just simply never do. And I don't understand it. I don't know why it's that same team every single time. I know a lot of it has to do with what Gary Patterson did planning-wise, but like it just really didn't make a lot of sense. And so maybe that mojo gets broken with Sonny Dykes. Maybe not. We'll see.
Here's the funniest chat room comment, though, after all that we've talked about with biscuits and gravy. I'm just sitting out in the hot tub listening to you guys talking smack. Watch out if I add a glass of wine to the equation. Thank you, biscuits and gravy. Matt Tate joins us. He, of course, covers Kansas. We've had Matt on many different times from the Lawrence Journal, World Journal, and he joins us to cover Kansas Baylor tomorrow. Matt, how is McCormick out, but Remy Martin appears to be back, and is it McCormick officially out?
Not unless it happened in the last hour or so. Have you heard that today?
No, I just saw your report about he aggravated his foot and.
Yeah. No, they're managing it, but he's playing through it, and it's nothing that he hasn't been dealing with all year. It flared up a little against Kansas State earlier in the week, but it's something they expect he's going to have to deal with the rest of the way. And that was just an update on them trying to figure out how to manage it and play through it, and he doesn't want to sit. I know that, and they don't need him to. They can't afford him to. So he'll be out there. I mean, unless something crazy happened today or overnight, he'll be out there. It's just a matter of how many minutes. But it's really interesting that you bring him up because he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the country. And they told me this week that rebounding is such a key for them against anybody, but especially against Baylor. And he didn't really do much the last time they played. I mean, he was 1 for 6 from the floor, didn't do anything on offense really, and didn't even have one of his better rebounding games. So I would have normally thought, they need Dave out there every time against everybody, even if he's not good Dave. He just needs to be big Dave. But looking back at that game in Lawrence, he didn't factor into that very much at all. But that game, I don't put a whole lot of stock in that game. I mean, I think Baylor came in and just caught a buzzsaw, and that factored in as much as anything. KU would have beat anybody that day.
Yeah, that was we've been talking about it. It was a bloodbath in Lawrence, Matt. Remy Martin scheduled to return to practice. Do you expect him to be on a minutes restriction? Do you think they'd play him like 10, 12 minutes a game, or what would they do since it's been so long?
Yeah, I do think that. I don't know that it would be, a clearly defined minutes thing, but they're not going to play him more than 15 or so, I would bet, just because he hasn't been out there. So it would take a really incredible showing by him where he looks like he's moving great, he's sound defensively, and he's quick and fast and pushing the pace on offense. And, he's capable of doing that when he's fully healthy, but his defense has been a problem even when he was fully healthy. And so because of that, and you guys know Bill Self, I mean, he doesn't play guys that don't play defense. And so he was limited in a sense, even when he was healthy, because he just wasn't up to the Kansas standard of what it takes to play defense. And so I think if they are to get him back, whether that's today or next week, this weekend or next week or whenever it comes, I mean, I think because of rust, because of the lack of, chemistry that's there right now with these guys and him. And then of course, because of the defense, I just can't imagine him playing more than 12, 15 minutes for the first few times out there at least. And maybe really that could be the scenario that unfolds the rest of the way. If he's able to keep playing, I still think he might be a, max 15, 20 minutes a game kind of guy. But they need him. They want him. And they would be different without him if they're able to, or with him, if they are able to get him back and actually have him be healthy and clicking.
Matt, obviously Baylor's been dealing with a lot of injuries. That's just part of the deal at this point. And you mentioned the buzzsaw there in game one. Where is your focus, or where do you think KU's focus is on Baylor heading into this game?
Well, it should be in the same spot it was the first time, and that was on Akinjo. I mean, they obviously know what he's capable of, and I think the fact that he didn't score in that first one, am I right?
No. He struggled. Boy, he did.
So, 0 for 6, I think 5 from 3-point range. I mean, every single player in that locker room for Kansas would tell you that is not happening again. Not against us, not against anybody. So, they know they kind of caught a fluky break with him struggling so much in that first one. But they did take a little bit of pride in the fact that they created some of the struggle for him in that one. But there's no doubt that they've got all eyes on him at all times. They know where he is. They want to close out to his shots, make him take tough shots. They want to keep him struggling even if he is missing shots, so that he doesn't become a creator and dish 8 or 9 assists and get other guys going even when he's not. So it's the classic cliche where they call him the head of the snake, and they want to cut that thing off and make that force the rest of the team to struggle. But obviously, when you look at what Flagler just did, he's got their attention as well, and always has. I mean, they respect his game for years now. It's not just that one game the other night, but yeah, I mean, Kansas is fully expecting Baylor's best shot. They're expecting an angry, hungry, fired up Baylor team. They're expecting a crazy atmosphere, and I'm expecting that too. I mean, I think it's awesome. This rivalry, this battle at the top of the Big 12 over the last few years has been so much fun. I mean, whether that's in Lawrence or down there, it's been one of the best games or two of the best games every season, and it only makes sense that they're still duking it out with the title on the line. And obviously, if KU wins on Saturday, they knock Baylor out and take a really big step toward taking care of the title. But if Baylor wins, it's still a 3-horse race in a very big way then. So, you just can't add enough to this game in terms of the stakes and everything that goes into it. And then when you think you can't, you throw College Game Day in there, and then you do. So, I mean, it should be pretty wild, and I'm excited to get down there and check it out.
So, Agbaji has been unbelievable throughout the year. Just came off a 20-point game, 20-plus point game against Kansas State. But I don't see his name anymore on the list of Player of the Year like I saw earlier. Do you feel like he's kind of faded out of that discussion or not?
He had a couple of games, the Kentucky game most notably, where it didn't go well on that kind of stage,
yeah.
and that hurt him, especially because Oscar Schwebe is one of those guys that is talked about at the very top of that thing. So it hurt him, but I do think people still think he's in the mix. I think if Kansas were to win out or something crazy like that, and we're not talking the tournament, but we're talking regular season, win the Big 12 by 3 games. If he continues to score at that 20-point a game clip, I mean, I would say he's probably still in that mix. He probably won't win it, but a finalist is definitely within reach. And you never know. I mean, this is the kind of game, or this is the kind of opportunity anyway, where he goes out and hits Baylor for 30 on their floor in that type of high stakes game on that type of stage. It could put him right back in the mix right away, and maybe even make him, neck and neck with Oscar for that top spot. But it's going to be really tough. If you guys have seen Oscar play or looked at his numbers, I mean, I'm sorry, it's going to be really tough to knock him off that perch. And I actually saw somebody today break it down, and it looked like they had a list of 8 or 10 guys, and they were calling this thing as wide open as a Player of the Year race has been in a long time, and that's probably fair, because as good as Oscar's numbers look, especially the rebound, a runaway guy. And part of that's, I think, the position he plays, but part of that's he's had some very average games as well. So I do think it's probably wide open, and I think that the opportunity is there, whether it's Ochai or anybody else that's in that sort of top 6 or 8. I think a few games down the stretch where you really catch people's eye with big totals and big wins, I think it could still be won in the next few weeks just by playing well then. So, he's in the mix, but he could care less. And that's just the kind of kid he is. I mean, of course, he would love to win it. Someday when he told his grandkids about it or whatever, he'd be pretty happy. In fact, last week they had it was against K-State, and it was one of his baskets in the first half. It was right before a timeout. And then during the timeout, they threw up on the scoreboard that Ochai just passed Wilt Chamberlain on KU's all-time scoring list. And so, of course, the crowd goes crazy, and there's a picture of Wilt up there. And my God, that's a pretty cool thing you're going to tell your grandkids someday, as long as you don't tell them the full details, because that was Ochai's 109th game at Kansas, and Wilt played 48. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you feel good about passing him. Anytime you can pass a guy like that, you tell everybody, and you don't show the whole cards. But yeah, it's the difference between like a 29.9 average for Wilt and like a 13.9 average for Ochai's career. So still though, he was, he took it right. He was happy. He said, I'll take it. I'm not going to turn that one down. But yeah, it certainly doesn't mean a whole lot. So he could care less about the individual stuff. He just wants to win, and this is his last shot to do it.
I know Will's no longer with us, but I do think that he has a different list that he cares more about.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm gonna leave it at that and see if our interns can figure out what I'm talking about. Matt, this team on the one line right now. I mean, even if they did lose tomorrow, do you see anything that would knock them off the one line outside of a just ridiculous collapse, which they don't really seem capable of?
Yeah, it would probably be about what other teams are doing, because their resume is really good, and their quad ones wins are as good as anybody's, and I mean, it depends on what your thoughts are on the Big 12, but some of the metrics show it as the toughest conference, right? And so if you win that one, and especially if you win it going away, it's definitely hard to take you off of that when you've played a pretty good non-con schedule and have a bunch of other quality wins too, and strength of schedule and all that stuff. So, I think they're definitely a lock too right now, and I think they're sort of in position to control their own destiny for that one seed. But it wouldn't shock me if they got knocked off of that. I mean, when you look at Arizona, Purdue, Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Baylor, of course, that's 5 right there. And then you throw Kansas in as the 6th or the 4th or wherever they are right now. But those 6, your ones are going to come from that group probably. And so if Baylor wins this game and then wins out, even if they don't win the Big 12 necessarily, because KU beats TCU twice or whatever, Baylor's resume could still be good enough to steal that one seed. So, same with Purdue. They've played a bunch of big games and have a good resume as well, and they're obviously a very good team. So I think it would take a little bit of both. It would take a really strong finish by someone on the outside right now, but they definitely would need KU to lose a game or two, and if KU doesn't do that, they're a 1 for sure.
Matt, you mentioned with McCormick and his value, obviously, Abaji, but and we've heard about and we've seen personally what Christian Brown has done. But who of these two, whether it's Jalen Wilson or DeJuan Harris, has been the other person that stepped up the most to make this run happen?
Well, it's both. I hate to take the easy answer there, but it is both in its different ways. It's been Jalen as a scorer. It's been Jalen as a third option. It's been Jalen as a guy who really pushes transition, can go get 11 rebounds, but can also bring the ball up the floor and really put pressure on defenses with how fast he is in the open court. So he has really turned up his game since Big 12 play started, and he's as good a scorer as there is in the league right now, and that includes the 2 guys on his team. So his scoring has really taken a lift there, but DeJuan Harris is still the guy that makes everything go, and he can have a 2 for 3 shooting night and not look like anything more than 6 points and 6 assists and a couple of steals. And you think, well, he didn't do much, but the fact of the matter is he plays 38, 39 minutes. He controls things defensively. He sets the tone offensively. He makes everything easier for his teammates at all times. And all of a sudden those 6 points, 6 assists and 2 steals that don't look great are the reason you won the game. So, their 5 is really good, and the big question for them right now is, what are they going to get from their bench, and that includes Remy, whether he comes back or not. That's part of it. But if they can get consistent contributions from their bench to where Self can trust those guys to go in, and they don't have to play 20 minutes apiece. In fact, I've written this all year. You've got that starting 5. You want them out there 35 minutes a game. There's nothing wrong with that. These are young kids, and they're the best players you have. Who in their right mind would want to sit them? So you want them out there. They want to be out there. But for Kansas, the big key for the postseason and the rest of the run here is what can they get beyond that 5, and can it be consistent? Because if it is, they've got a chance to really make a deep run. If it isn't, their 5's still good enough, but then their margin for error is a little greater because a guy has an off night or gets into some foul trouble, and all of a sudden you're scrambling a little bit. So I do think their starting 5 is as good as any out there, though, and their matchup with Kentucky was a nightmare. I don't think they would want to see them again, but there aren't many Kentuckys out there either. So KU is KU right now. They're doing what they always do. They're putting themselves in the mix for a 1 or a 2. They're Their expectations are sky high, and they've got the talent to back it up. So, we'll see what happens with the next few weeks. It's really mind-blowing, though, that March is right around the corner already.
Thank you, Matt. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you. Take care.
Covers Kansas like a blanket and always has. And we've had him on probably 3 or 4 times already this year. And to clarify that David McCormick, there were some quotes about how he was aggravated his foot. He's going to be there. And then Remy Martin, they expect him to play as well in that game tomorrow night between Baylor and also Kansas. And we don't know. Most likely you would think L.J. Cryer, no, but then all of a sudden he showed up for a game and then didn't after they lost that game in Lubbock to Texas Tech. Matt Tate, sports editor of the Lawrence Journal-World, with us on Sickle 365 Radio.
That might be the toughest Vegas bet you could place is like, who's playing for Baylor today?
Yeah.
Like, you put L.J. Cryer odds at like 10-1 or something and just have people available to bet on that. That'd probably get more action than the game itself, or at least that would be more difficult probably than the game itself would be to determine who Baylor's actually going to have available and not. It's just been that kind of year, but obviously Kansas has dealt with their own issues. Everybody has. So, that's one thing that hopefully when people hear us talk about injuries all the time, because that's been Baylor's story all year long, it's not an excuse. I mean, it is what it is, and everybody else has been dealing with it as well, but it's just impossible not to talk about because it's had such a profound effect on who they are and what they've looked like all year. I mean, it can't not be talked about. But yeah, they're not alone in that by any means. And look, if you want to get to where you got last year, you got very lucky last year, very lucky in terms of injuries. It's been the complete opposite this season. But if you want to get to that ultimate, mountaintop, part of the deal. Got to overcome it. Got to, find ways to still win regardless of who's available or who's not. And if you're ultimately not able to, then you're not able to. But, they have no choice but to try and do what they can to work around that, even though it's been a colossal hurdle to have to jump over multiple times this year.
Yeah, other than COVID last year, that just shut them down for a little bit, for a long time. And then they could have lost that Iowa State game easily when they came back, then lost to Kansas, got beat up in Lawrence. They did not have any issues. There were bumps and bruises. So that's Matt Tate. Grayson Grundhafer normally joins us at the end of the 3 o'clock hour on Fridays. He's going to be on with us at 4:45 today. So we've moved him back to talk Baylor and recruiting football and Baylor, Kansas in men's basketball. Coming up next, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, on a couple of things when it comes to what their timeline and what their priorities are. And it's Sick'em 365 Radio. Discover Woodway, the Carling Bright Arboretum, and the Pavilion, a wonderful location with fantastic views, the landscaping, big, huge windows to see all the beauty and the trails of what they have in the city of Woodway to host a gala, a banquet, a fundraiser, maybe even a meeting that you're having with, you have a pretty large office, a group of people coming into town, and you want something different other than what you've been doing as far as where you meet inside your own building. They also, by the way, if you have a special about weddings and rehearsal dinners, if you have something you need for food, you can bring in your own outside caterer. And that's not always the case. And so you can do that as well at discoverwoodway.com. And right now, their next major event is got a couple of months from now. In fact, not until May. The Mother-Daughter Brunch will be on May the 7th. They've had the father-daughter dance. Now the Mother-Daughter Brunch. And maybe you have more than one daughter, so that makes it even more special. You can go to discoverwoodway.com for information for tickets as well. discoverwoodway.com.
This is your 54th District Judge, Susan Kelly. Appointed to the court by Governor Greg Abbott, I've worked hard to manage and move the docket, even during COVID. Board certified in criminal law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization and past president of the Waco Bar Association, you can be sure I apply the rule of law and deliver justice for all. Early voting starts February 14th, so be my Valentine and vote for justice. Keep Judge Kelly.
Political ad paid for by Susan Kelly from McLennan County Judge Campaign.
Truck Month started early at Allen Samuels. You could get a 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $7,500 or as little as 0% for 72 months. This month, first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram continues to win awards year after year. Take home power, performance, and reliability, and shop the huge new car and truck inventory in stock today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity if people have to pay things off as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right, so we have Paula drinking a glass of wine. We have, was it Steven talking about Tito's? And now Joey on the chat room, I don't need CBD, I've got the real stuff.
Hey.
So, it's Friday, right? Let's just chill out. Let's chill out, just head to the weekend and enjoy it all. We've lost control of the chat room because of Paul's Wilt Chamberlain comment earlier in the show. We'll hear from Mickey Spagnola here momentarily. Also, if you did miss yesterday's segment with Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, he will join us. We'll have the interview again. We'll replay it today after University of Houston NFL prospect Logan Hall. Bob Bowlesby about 5:25. No Mickey Spagnola. You're kind of in a slump.
I know. Well, it's everybody's got a case of the Fridays, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm just talking about there, and so who knows? But now I want to see this. Okay, Big 12. The bracketologies are all saying the Big 12 gets 6 teams in. Can you make an argument for Iowa State, 6-9 in the conference, 19-9 overall? They've won 3 straight here at the end. They do play Baylor to close out the season.
They need that Baylor win on Monday. I think they really do.
Oklahoma State is next. They can't get in. They're done. They're on NCAA out of it for this year. Then Oklahoma 4-11, West Virginia, they're both at 500. I can't imagine how there's nothing they could do that I know of that could get them in at 4-11 and 3-12, even if they were to win 2 or 3 games down the stretch. Both of them, in fact, combined have lost 9 straight games. And that's got to be disappointing for Porter Moses.
Moser.
Porter
Moser.
Oh, that's what I said, about Porter Moser, the Oklahoma coach, because they started out, looked like they were kind of pretty good.
It's that Monday. On Saturday is Iowa State. Texas is Monday for Baylor.
Yeah. So Baylor has Kansas, then Monday Texas on the road, and then they close it out against Iowa State. So I can't see anything more than 7, and Iowa State would have to have, and I don't know what all their Ken Palm and all that other stuff is, but Iowa State would need, let's see, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, then Baylor. I don't know if they can get to that point. It'd be nice to get another team in, but I'm not sure. But they have won 3 straight against TCU, Oklahoma, and West Virginia because the schedule got better for them. The schedule eased up for them.
1 game under 500 usually okay. 2 games under 500, you're kind of bailing water at that point.
And that's another team that started the year. Remember they had Baylor to open up. Didn't they open up conference play? And they were really good at the time. And eventually Baylor beat them by 5 or 6 or so in Ames, Iowa. So that'll be kind of watching what Isaiah Brockington and Iowa State can do down the stretch. But they might be stuck in the water. Now, Baylor baseball up 1-0 right now against Duke. They need to win after an 0-for-3 week.
Yeah, they did not get off to a good start. 0-3 last weekend, and got their first win in the midweek tilt. And now a series with Duke this weekend at home. It's very early, but you do look around the Big 12, and there's a lot of really good teams. I mean, Texas is, arguably the best team in the country. They've came back loaded for Bear. TCU is obviously very good as well, and there are others. So, Baylor baseball's got its work cut out for it. Been kind of a quiet last couple of years, to be perfectly honest, just because of just the delays, cancellations, postponements, all that kind of jazz. That's definitely affected them a little bit. But, it'd be good to get some wins this weekend. I mean, just stack wins while you can and how you can. And they need them after the way they opened up. So good to see them out in front, but obviously a very long way to go the rest of this afternoon.
So nothing with Mickey?
No, I'm 0-for-2. I left him a message. Usually he's right on it.
He's probably breaking his store. Women's basketball, though. We mentioned tomorrow, 2 o'clock at the Farrell Center. After college game day, 2 o'clock, Baylor in the women's standings with Baylor tied at Iowa State. And they have Iowa State Monday. And Kansas, remember, beat Baylor. Didn't they beat Baylor earlier this year? Or was that Kansas that beat them earlier? Kansas State did. That's right. That was the win that Baylor was down and out and kind of struggling. And then they came back and scored. They were out like down 5 or 6 late in the game, and like in a minute or 2 left, and they found a way to win the game. They need to win that game. That should be competitive. Kansas is really good in women's basketball. Back in the day, they had a girl named Lynette Woodard who was an All-American player. Paige Beckers, last year's Player of the Year in women's basketball. UConn, she's been out, will apparently suit up tonight when they play St. John's, and so that kind of gives them a little bit of an adrenaline rush as well. One note here in college football. Pete Thamel reporting that NFL veteran assistant Will Harriger is now going to be the senior offensive analyst to work with quarterbacks at USC, work with Russell Wilson, and Pete Carroll in Seattle. Worked with Atlanta, Jacksonville, Lincoln Riley. One of the things Caleb Williams' family, this is Thamel, stressed NFL-specific development during his transfer, and another way for USC to provide that.
Jeez, how many assistant coaches does he have, man? It seems like they've hired like 50 guys on that staff. Like, there's like co-coordinators in some cases. It seems that way. I'm being
honeymoon period.
I'm in jest, obviously, but that's how it seems. Like in reading the headlines over the last few weeks, is they've just added and added and added and added, and there's like analysts for the analysts almost, but.
That's what I do wonder, like how much information is too much information for you to go through?
I don't know.
Or how many, analysts hardly ever spend, a whole heck of a lot of time with the team, at all, really. I mean, they're outside of that and they're doing other work. So I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder, it's like, when is too much, and when are you just hiring somebody as an analyst so that you make sure they don't go somewhere that's going to play you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about this guy, so I don't know how you'd be really worried about what he's going to go do at like UCLA or something. You know, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but no, I mean, I just think he's rounded out his staff, and that's good. I mean, the more the merrier. I'm just, in a very uneducated, just kind of summary of I just feel like I've seen a ton of movement on his staff, which is to be expected. But he brought over like a haul from Oklahoma to begin with, and has just added and added, and so. Hey, Alabama does it and Texas does it and, everybody else does it at this point with all these different analysts, and it's almost they've, found a way to kind of cheat the system again almost in a way. You know what I mean? Like we got Gary Patterson as a defensive analyst on our football teams. Saban with his whole coach recuperating, thing. Charlie Strong's on the staff one year, and then one year it's Bill O'Brien, and then one year it's this guy. So it's nothing new by any means. But yeah, it just seems like there's been a lot of hires at USC, but he maybe had a lot of hires to make. I mean, he was going in there to clean house. We heard what it was like when he first got there. Was roaming the offices and whatnot, and just kind of how awkward that was. So clearly he had a lot of work to do, and he's had that work to do the last couple months. And, there's a lot of buzz building there, so we'll see what happens. I mean, he's got the whole Los Angeles vibe now and Southern California to recruit, and he can obviously recruit nationally as well. But they built a pretty impressive staff, and all is there for him to, turn this thing into – what USC fans have been clamoring for since Pete Carroll left, so we'll see if he can do it. That's going to be one of the fascinating storylines entering, not only next year, but years to come.
Anytime you get a job where a place is desperate, and maybe that could be a strong word, but USC wanting to get themselves back. We've seen this at other schools that used to win. Or anytime there's a change in business, and you get an opportunity to be a CEO or a general manager or whoever, football coach, there is a honeymoon period. And you take advantage of it as much as you possibly can, because it won't be like that forever. Now, if you get a honeymoon period and then you win and you bring whatever they want, even though that's your job, you might get more of a honeymoon period. So, but Alabama started this, not that they, like others haven't had analysts. UT's done a great job. Baylor has had analysts as well. USC has analysts. Everyone does.
Well, when
Georgia, by the way, on the offensive line story where Eric Mateos' name was mentioned as a candidate for that job, Mike Bobo is now back at Georgia as an analyst, and he has a connection with Ohio State's, is it Ohio State's offensive line coach? No, Auburn's Will Friend, who's an offensive line coach there, and so there might be a connection with that as well. The thing is, it's just more and more and more, and you wonder, even with millions and millions and millions of dollars that college football is producing with TV and whatever, now you're paying players? Man, who's losing here? Someone's got to be not getting something. Is it the school? Who's not getting money if you're going to be paying now offensive line coaches are going rate? You're talking $500,000-$600,000 is a really like almost a top 5 number, and now you want to give $1 million, and then you have analysts, and then you have
the only person people who lose in this and all would be the universities and the fans if these gigantic money dumps don't work out. I mean that's who loses in it, but. The university loses if they don't get what they're paying for.
I'm not going to feel sorry about what extra they might be paying for when we hear about the gigantic gobs of money that they bring in off of TV contracts and things like that. I mean, that's the whole point of players getting paid, is that so much money was going to the school and not to anybody else practically. The coaches, the salaries have risen, but that's just a part of the market and what it's become. That's what happens when you have schools that want to go out and make that huge splash and don't realize, or maybe don't care at the time, that splash is going to, create tsunami after effects for everybody else, to where now they're having to pay their coach $8 million at least to even stay with the market. So there's a couple of schools to blame for raising the prices as much as they are, but I mean, I'm not counting the university's money. It's not my money. So whatever they're spending on analysts or assistant coaches or players or whatever, okay, you can take that out of the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that you make every year that wasn't going to the players for decades. So if anything, they yeah, they are just doing what they should have been doing all along, and they had decades to save as much money as possible to get to this point. So I'm not worried about where the money's going. If you want to burn a bunch of money on bad contracts, well, like we see with Auburn, for example, then you just better hope you got boosters to back you up or good NIL deals to help you out. But yeah, that's just part of the deal right now.
Roger Dodger, USC needs the help. Dumpster fires require a lot of attention. And Ryan, we mentioned this. Craig was talking about Texas Tech and the head-to-head, how tournament seeds are for teams' total body of work. We understand that. Not a committee judging a team's ceiling because of injuries. We get that. In fact, they've actually mentioned that it's who you are. It's like you're 5'11", 175. That they know that. And but we appreciate the feedback.
I'm not confused by that. I just don't necessarily agree with it, and that's just me. I just think that when it comes down to Texas Tech and Baylor, okay, Baylor's got more quadrant 1 wins or whatever. If that's the way the formula works, okay, fine, that's it. I'm just saying, to me, whether that's the way the formula works or not, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have Texas Tech behind Baylor. I don't care that Baylor beat some other teams that aren't Texas Tech earlier in the year when they were fully healthy. I'm talking about right now, Texas Tech versus Baylor. We've seen the head-to-head. We've seen it twice. It's very clear who the better team was. But if you want to say Baylor's a better team because even though they were 0-2 against Tech, but they beat so-and-so back in March, okay, or back in January, okay, that's fine. I'm just saying I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think we've seen the eye test twice now, and it was clear to me who the better team was.
Yeah, and that's with Tech what they didn't do enough of in non-conference, which counts.
Right, and I get that. I'm just saying I don't necessarily agree with that.
Right, right. Today at the media session that Jack McKenzie's at, L.J. Cryer still remains what is a game-time decision, which most of the time has meant no. He did play in Lubbock against Texas Tech in that loss a week ago Wednesday, and Adam Flagler's good to go. And that's great news because he didn't play Saturday when they beat TCU. 41 minutes Monday in that knockdown, drag-out street fight. I mean, just gutted out the win against Oklahoma State. 29 points, 41 minutes, and he apparently good to go. So the extra day or two probably helped. Sometimes when the thing with LJ or Adam Flagler or McCormick or Remy Martin, whoever, it's not when they play, it's how they react to when they play. When you have some things that are kind of a lingering issue here and there. So Paul Catalina today, not good with his comments about Wilt, and then also because he can't get guests on the show on
my
time.
Comment about Wilt was just it was a statement of fact.
The chat room loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, all the people that are in there doing their wine and vodka and all the non-CBD. Kendall Couch going to join us in the next segment. He covers Baylor basketball, college basketball as well. By the way, I want to Evan Miyakawa, Dr. Miyakawa from Baylor. He put up a stat. I want to ask you guys this. I don't have it in front of me. He put up a stat. He's got all these analytics. What the best foursome on the court with 4 players at one time, who has the best this and that, like offense and defense and ratio? There it is. Thank you, Armstrong. That's the best 4. You don't play with 4.
No, but I mean,
these are the guys, the common denominators, yes. I guess, when teams, and there's a big list up there, but Baylor's got a couple of groups in that list.
Well, there's usually a squeaky wheel. Overall, even you have 5 good players. The 5th one is usually the squeaky wheel.
I'm going to tell Mark Vital you said that.
No, he would never been my squeaky wheel.
No, it would have been Flo. I mean, with all due respect, right? You would have had Teague, Butler, Davion, and Vital would have been the 4, and on occasion Flagler as well. So that's a list up on Evan Mia, M-I-Y-A on Twitter. Dr. Miyakawa, he put up that. He's got so much stuff. And now a lot of the people nationally are starting to recognize what he's doing. Evan Miyakawa, who joins our show on occasion, and his analytical breakdowns. When we come back, Kendall Kaup, his thoughts about Baylor, Kansas, Sikkim, 365 Radio, and 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Baylor wins the tip. And Meyer launches and buries one to start it. And the Bears on top.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Kendall Kaut, Sikkim365.com, basketball writer, analyst, and also has done color on occasion for Baylor Radio as well. Joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Kendall, all right, so again, LJ Cryer, game time decision. We know that's going to be a daily deal forever, at least this season. Adam Flagler cleared to go. Does Baylor have enough firepower if both teams play well to beat Kansas?
I think they do if both teams play well, Smokey. I think the game probably leans KU right now, as much as it pains me to say. Currently in Kansas, waiting to take a flight down to Dallas and then drive to Waco tomorrow. Lean KU if both teams are healthy, but there certainly is a window, even if LJ is not playing tomorrow, where I think Baylor can get it done.
Yeah. How much does Baylor really need LJ to come back, given that Akinjo, and right now what he's playing through, he is not scoring like he can?
Paul, I think it'd be a big boon for Baylor, but I don't think it is necessary for Baylor to succeed. As you mentioned, I think if, James is not where he's been earlier, then I think Baylor's in a lot of trouble. So I think one of James or LJ has to come back to the level they were at previously. If LJ's not back, Baylor, I think, can still be good. With James, you can get the freshman improving, so it's not fatal to Baylor's cause to win a national title, but it's a lot tougher path.
What did you think about the close win over Oklahoma State and obviously the win over TCU prior to that?
Thought the Oklahoma State win, Craig, showed a lot of grit on Baylor's part. Adam Flagler played an incredible game. King McClure had a really good game in Stillwater previously. I think that's 7 straight that they've won in Northern Oklahoma, so a really good showing by Baylor when LJ's not there. James goes 0 of 7 in regulation, then hits both shots and has the assist for the other bucket that Baylor has in overtime. So phenomenal performance by Baylor there. Then TCU was just utter domination. The ending, not the best for Baylor, but with how few guys they're playing going forward, I thought that was a really good win. And TCU is going to make the tournament, so an impressive Quadrant 1 victory in Fort Worth. And then you add that victory in Waco. That's a good showing for Baylor in both games.
Yeah, and right now, we discussed this a little bit earlier, Kendall, and Evan Miyakawa and others. You have Joe Lenardi and Jerry Palm, and there's Ken Palm or whatever. Do you think right now, based on the fact that Texas Tech has beaten Baylor home and away, and yes, Baylor has 3 more wins in Quadrant 1, but would you say right now with the eyeball test that Baylor should be a 2 seed and Texas Tech a 3 seed?
I think if you do the eyeball test right now, it would be fair to say Texas Tech should be seated above Baylor. I think, though, to answer a little bit more than just the question itself that I think you're setting me up for there, Smokey, is that the eyeball test is not everything in college basketball, right? Head-to-head's not everything. Texas Tech didn't look very good at certain times in non-con. They played a horrendously offensive game to basketball in terms of offense against Tennessee earlier in the season. They got smoked by Gonzaga, and they have some good wins in the Big 12, the win against Kansas, sweeping Baylor. But I get why Texas Tech fans would be mad. They'd say we beat Baylor twice, but Baylor could counter. Well, we beat Michigan State. We beat Arizona State, who's pretty bad but not horrendous. They have the win against Villanova that was utterly dominant. So Baylor's non-conference looks a lot better than Texas Tech's, and they have a good conference mark. And then I think the committee might have given Baylor a little bit of leeway on how they've had to battle the injuries. If LJ's not back, maybe that tanks them down a little bit. But there was a pretty significant gap the committee mentioned in their earlier reveal where Baylor was number 5 and kind of bunched up with KU, Baylor, Kentucky at 4, 5, 6 respectively, and Texas Tech was not in that mix. So you hear the College Football Playoff Committee often talk about head-to-head only becomes a factor when the teams are directly compared. And this committee and college basketball doesn't even consider it that same tie-breaking factor that the College Football Playoff Committee does, because Kentucky absolutely rocked KU and Lawrence last month, and KU was seeded 4, Kentucky 5. So the fans in Lubbock can complain, but head-to-head does not matter in basketball like it does in football.
Kendall, now that you're down the stretch, you're in your last 3 games, and Kendall Brown has played really well and we're really within what they needed from him. But given that they might need a little bit more scoring if, again, LJ Cryer continues to linger and James Akinjo, doesn't get hot again, do you expect them to maybe unleash the Kraken a little bit with him and let him loose and score a little bit more?
I do, Paul, and I think the positive sign from Kendall has been how he's taken threes. I set my alarm to remember to make sure I'm available for right now. I think, Paul, though, when it comes to Kendall Brown, I'm very excited how he's taken more threes. He's not going to shoot those at a super high rate, but if just 1 or 2 additional plays in the tournament happen where guys close out hard on Kendall Brown, he can drive into the lane and get dunked or set up teammates. He's a pretty adept passer despite not always getting those chances in the half court. That's a good sign. He wouldn't even take those shots after the Stanford game from non-con until a few weeks ago. So I think there's a benefit to getting more Kendall Brown. And then I still continue to push that Kendall Brown should be a screener a little bit more often because he is just so fast that if he screens, people are like, we haven't had any strategy to ever figure this dude would screen. He gets into the lane. He's going to have some opportunities near the bucket. So I do expect Kendall Brown to have an upward trajectory in his last few weeks that I expect him in a Baylor uniform.
Kendall, how much do you think the first go-round, that first performance, which was not very good, obviously, against Kansas, is that a motivating factor, do you think, for this team, or are they so business-like that it's not even looking at the name across the chest of who they're playing?
I think it actually is a motivating factor. I think some of them would say, hey, it's one game, go 1-0 every day is kind of their motto they have, Craig, but I think it is completely a motivating factor for them. The preparation for this game, Baylor does really in-depth scouting reports. They do detailed scouting reports, but at some level, You don't have to spend 4 hours saying, okay, is Ochai Agbaji going to drive left if the score's this way, or if it's the play, after KU's out of timeout play right here, are they going to try and set up an action for Christian Brown? Like, that's all fun. We enjoy doing that. We enjoy talking about that if you kind of analyze basketball. But at some level, I mean, Baylor got absolutely smoked, destroyed, embarrassed, pathetic, horrible performance. And Lawrence, Scott Drew got that technical because he was worked up about everything happening. I mean, you can talk X's and O's all day, but if you're getting absolutely smoked, it doesn't matter. So I think that was an embarrassing loss for Baylor. The folks that got to see the Our Time series on ESPN Plus that I've watched y'all show get the shout out several times. Congrats to you all for that.
Thank you.
Front. But as it pertains to that game, absolutely embarrassing. I think that will motivate Baylor because that was the worst Baylor's looked in about 3 years. They've been 3 great years, so it's okay to have a moment like that, but not okay to have a second one like that against the same team in the same year.
Kendall, I know this might be nitpicky, but Flo Thomba's a big, tall guy. He started every game last year when they won the national title. He's a big part of what they do and his perfect role. But is there what's the reason why he doesn't use his height in traffic as much as you would think he would do underneath the basket on the offensive end?
It's a great question, Smokey. I think my response to that, because I've thought about this a lot, as much as one can think about Flo Thamba in their daily life, I think I've thought about. And I think when it comes to him, it's one of those deals in basketball where you look at what someone's skill set is compared to just your average person who's played basketball, and you think, okay, if I were 7 feet and I had the kind of skill he has in other aspects of his game, certainly a good finisher because I'd be tall, I'd be strong, I'd clearly be athletic like Flo is in a lot of areas. But I just think he's not great around the hoop, and he's not great at catching passes at some level. And it's frustrating because you think, okay, if Flo can play defense like this, or if Flo can rotate like this, or if Flo is smart enough to know every pick and roll coverage, or if Flo can transition seamlessly from French to English and is also a good photographer and is a great teammate, why can't he score near the hoop? But it's the same deal where if somebody was like, I shoot 85% from the free throw line in an open gym and I'm a terrible athlete, why can't a certain guard shoot at least 70%? And it's like, well, why can't you dunk? Or why can't you cross over people like crazy? Or why can't you make threes from 40 feet? At some level, I think a lot of us try and ascribe the values we think we'd be good at basketball and other people. And just because Flo is bad at one thing that you think you should be good at does not mean his other things aren't valuable. I get to the frustration. I have the frustration too sometimes watching him. But I think it's a skill that Flo is not great at. And it's something that I think Baylor probably needs to scheme a little bit more around and say, you know what, we're not going to look to have Flo Thamba score 20 points tonight. I don't think they really are too often. But sometimes they try and hit Flo Thamba and have him make plays. And I just don't think that's Flo's skill set as much. I think that sometimes sets him up to fail a little too often.
So you mentioned, you kind of referred to this a second ago, but I was looking through the game notes, and Kendall, this is like just a perspective thing. This is not really so much to do with Kansas, but over the last 2 seasons, Baylor is 51-7. Over the last 3 seasons, they are 77-11. Only Gonzaga has a better mark over the last 3 seasons at 84-5, and of course they've got the trump card over Gonzaga after last year, but I mean, as somebody who follows Baylor basketball closely, I know we've been talking for 2 years now about how great this team is. We've celebrated a national championship, but is that still just kind of surreal to hear that type of a mark and what Scott Drew really has been doing over the last couple of seasons in particular?
It absolutely is, Craig. And I think that historically, anytime I kind of come back to Waco or watch games or I see the same opponent, I think back to other games against a common opponent. And so I think back to some of the Baylor KU games. And like I remember back in 2011, which, doesn't feel that long ago to me, but now it's a lifetime ago in a lot of respects. When KU Baylor played, it was seen as a big game. KU comes in, that KU team that got embarrassed by VCU in the Elite Eight, but was probably the best team in the country that year, and they just wall up Baylor in the Farrell Center. You think back to 2012, and Baylor feels pretty good about their team. They don't play real well against KU right then and there, but then you think to the last 3 years, and there really is nobody in the country that I think has been more impressive than Baylor over that time frame. I mean, Gonzaga is the one argument you have, and although I said head-to-head doesn't matter for seeding in the NCAA tournament, it certainly matters in the final day of the season when Baylor was clearly the best team all of last year. I think it's been the best program in the country for the last 3 seasons. I think the impressive thing is it's so hard to go from that good to great element. There's that best-selling book by Jim Collins about what companies made it, what companies didn't from that leap. And I think even compare something like Texas and Chris Beard. That Chris Beard kind of got Tech going in a good spot, but he really hasn't replicated that in his last couple seasons in Lubbock, and now in year 1 in Austin. He hasn't done that either, and so he hasn't been able to sustain that greatness. Baylor has been, even with all the injuries. I mean, we still feel like this is legitimately a top 15 team, and if they can make a few tweaks, I think they can get back to being a top 5 team again.
Kendall, where's the dinner stop tonight once you get to Dallas?
So, Paul, I'm gonna, I think, hit up Babes when my flight lands tomorrow. Gonna be counting on Southwest to not cancel my flight or have anybody freak out. Pro anti-mask. There are no masks. We're all in a simulation. I don't know what the fights are like anymore. Hopefully, it all goes well. But I'm probably gonna eat a lot of Babes, and then hopefully not suffer too much in the media area. But if I do, people can expect that because it's a Baylor KU. It's game day. Expect the crazy.
You, I sense a little adrenaline rush in you. You're looking forward. We all should be looking forward to this, right?
Absolutely, Smokey. These are the KU Baylor to me is the rivalry I get the most jacked up for because they're the two schools I have degrees from. I live in the Kansas City area. I see a lot of the KU faithful day in and day out. If there's kind of one game a year, I'd like to see Baylor win, or 2 games a year, I'd like to see Baylor win. It's Baylor KU, and it's the matchup I get the most hyped about since I think they're by far the 2 best programs in the conference right now. And I just have no respect for Texas. So even though I can get a little worked up for it, I don't care for their people. I don't care for their culture. And I'll be at the Frank Irwin Center on Monday. They can't pull my credential this late since I've already got
it. Wow. Kendall throwing down. Kendall, thank you. Good luck with your travels, man. Be careful tomorrow when you're on your way into Waco.
Always appreciate it, fellas, and thank you.
Kendall Kaut, one of the great additions to Sikkim365.com, and also a part of our segments as well covering basketball.
Remember like 2 or 3 years ago when somebody actually wrote an article calling for Scott Drew to get fired, and he's basically gone 51-7 with a national title since then.
That was a stupid comment. Got a lot of play out of it, and sometimes still likes to get a lot of play out of it. Go back and like, oh shucks, I was just, well, that's part of the documentary.
I'm not talking about one person in particular. I'm talking about like there were more than just one person talking about Scott Drew should be fired at different points. But yeah, I just remember like there was that article and maybe others like it. And then, since then it's been a 51-7 run with a national title. So whoops.
I wonder if you just went through different fields of, if you watched, if it was a movie, if it was sports, if you're like, if you took a player. If you're like, man, Michael Jordan's just never going to win a title because he didn't do it when his first 2 years, or 4 years. You'd be like, well, you're maybe the people who said that. Look, I learned my lesson about Dirk Nowitzki. You can't never ever say never because your true, peak as a professional, as an artist, as whatever you are, could be instead of where some people's when it's 27, yours could be when you're 34. Yours could be when you're 40.
Who else is surrounding you?
Yeah, exactly.
You mean like people who are like, oh, well, Luka's never going to win a title in Dallas. It's heard that for years about Dirk.
Luka's barely legally allowed to drink in this country.
Exactly. He's kind of young still.
Yeah.
So
how about Matthew Stafford? There would have been absolutely every reason known to man for you to say that Matthew Stafford will never win a Super Bowl. Not with the Lions. He just will never win a Super Bowl. And he just did. Yeah. Got away. And again, because he was able to change his neighborhood or who was around him as well and was an organization that compiled a bunch of stars.
Craig and I are going to see a movie next Thursday night, The Batman. If you had judged Robert Pattinson by the movies he was the most popular for, most people are like, I'm not going to go see that. He's in a weird vampire movie. Now he's freaking Batman.
Yeah, he is.
It
looks freaking sweet, too.
Again, let people grow and change.
Yeah, if you had gone strictly off the Twilight movies, you never would have suspected that was going to be Batman.
The early part of Scott Drew's career was his Twilight movies. Now he's Batman.
No, he is. He's absolutely Batman.
Check him out in Good Time. If you want to see Robert Pattinson in like a different vibe than in Twilight, Good Time is definitely different. Robert Pattinson.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah, Lighthouse.
Does he have the body structure of Batman?
Yeah.
Plus, you can make. It's movie.
How do you guys know his body?
Because we've seen all the trailers and pictures and like everything else that's been coming out to promote this movie for the last several weeks.
Did Michael Keaton?
No,
it's this thing where you get the job and then they put you like on a Hollywood fitness instructor to get you 40 pounds heavier muscle-wise. That's what they do for all these gigs. Or, in some cases, they'll have you... Colin Farrell, he's playing the Penguin or the early version of what becomes the Penguin or whatever. And, some of that was prosthetics, but I'm sure he had to, just eat some junk food and put a little fat on to mimic the Penguin character. But yeah, Robert Pattinson's, he looks good in the suit from all the clips and trailers that we've seen.
Look at Chris Pratt before he was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Former Beta wide receiver.
No, but he was.
That actually is very annoying that you could not Google Chris Pratt Baylor without Chris Pratt showing up every single time you Google searched it. It did not matter. Chris, like capital L, Chris Pratt's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, no, I'm looking for the Baylor receiver. That was annoying.
I saw one of those when you're having a debut or preview, whatever, or something. Premiere, that too. And that there was a picture of him in a suit. And it was a larger suit than it's like back in the early parts of the 2000s when you see guys in the NBA draft. The suits it was like long and like his sleeves were longer than they should have been. The suit was it's like somebody who just lost a lot of weight. And yet there was comments, well, that guy's, and again, because I'm the movie guy, that guy doesn't look like he's going to fill out a Batman. Well, then first of all, what they're wearing sometimes makes them look a little more muscular, structural.
Well,
anyway,
the movie comes out next week, so let's hope he's got the Batman body down at this point. Like I think it's fine. I think he's going to fill out the suit, and I think that will be fine. I think the movie's going to be. I'm not trying to get myself too hyped up over it, but I'm a huge Batman fan. That's always been my favorite superhero movie.
Yeah.
Every single that's easily my favorite series. When they've done it, and I am stoked about this version because I'm also a bit of a noir fan and detective and kind of that old feel, and that's exactly up this alley as well. So I'm pumped.
Paul Underwood, who'll be on the postgame show with Ashley Hodge tomorrow on the text line, says his Batman had a paunch belly. That was Adam West.
Adam West had a little gut. Yeah, so,
that's right.
And he was wearing a very revealing suit in comparison to all the suits we've seen since then. He just had straight spandex.
Yeah.
Straight up spandex.
Okay.
Good old Adam West.
The Batman movie coming out, and I'll be riding solo that day.
No, we're going to see it right after the show on Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, if we're distracted during the show, you know why, but...
When we come back, we'll hear from Grayson Grunhafer. We moved him back an hour because we had a couple of guests that just weren't ready and on time, and we've given them demerits. But Grayson will join us. I saw something in the premium section about a top 100 talent or rated player that is going to be visiting Baylor in about a month or so. We'll have that with him and much more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be and maybe used to be. And what I mean by that is you get older, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues for low testosterone. One of them could be your sleep habits are not nearly as good. There could be also other reasons for that, but that could be one. And the other part of it could be your energy. You're lethargic. You don't feel quite the same. I told you the other day I bumped into a guy who walked up to me. He goes, listen, Dr. Petty is not my doctor, but because of the commercial you talk about, I went to mine. I asked him for blood work, and he looked at my testosterone level. It was down under 300. Way too low. It should be somewhere around 800. It can flux and vary for different people. So he got himself into a program. He says he feels so much better with its energy. And it also could be your sex drive. It just changes. Part of growing up, 1 out of every 3 men have those symptoms. 1, both, or 1, 2, or all 3. Go to pettycliniclowt.com, get an appointment, tell him I sent you. He'll look at your blood work, and if your testosterone levels have dropped or are too low, he could put you in a program to increase your energy and everything else at pettycliniclowt.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Payments for qualified buyers are 2.9% with 5,000 down cash or trade. TTN Electric, see dealer for details.
The New Year, New Ride sales event continues at Richard Carr. Find pre-owned deals like a 2015 GMC Acadia or a 2016 Honda Accord for $227 a month, or get a 2019 Ram Tradesman truck for $333 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection. Get top dollar for your trade, and 100% approval is always the goal. Find your next car or truck today at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Grayson Grundhafer, nice enough to allow us to get him on a little bit later, which we hate to do, but we needed to because we had a kind of a collision course of 2 or 3 segments all at once. Thank you for doing that, Grayson. Appreciate your time. I saw a note in the premium section. It's been in there for a while about a top 100 rated player that might be visiting Baylor. Is that correct?
Yeah, guys, this was big news this week. Now, so it's Caden Green. He's out of Lee Summit, Missouri, North High School, so in the Missouri area. And Caden has been a guy that he's been, ready to visit Baylor since he got offered back at the end of December. But I finally got an official date from him. He finally got something set up right after the Bears ended their 2-week communication dead period. So he finally got a date kind of finalized March 26th. He will be in Waco. It'll give him an opportunity to see spring practice, give him a chance to just get to know Baylor better. And, he's coming with his family, his mom, dad, his brother. This is a big one, guys. He's pretty much ranked inside the top 100 in every single site, at least in the top 150. And then composite-wise, he's inside the top 70. So, really, really big-time player, one of the top 7 offensive tackles in the entire country. If he was a recruit in the state of Texas, he would be the best offensive line prospect in the state. So just something to keep in mind there. Left tackle prospect can kind of do it all at 6'5", 310 pounds. And, you expect a lot of competition with him. But one thing I can tell you is his Christian faith, his the person over player aspect of Baylor, all of that really resonates with him and his family. So this is going to be a really interesting one. He's going to take quite a few unofficial visits. LSU, Oklahoma are a couple that are going to get an unofficial visit, and then he'll narrow down the places that he's going to take official visits at after he goes on this unofficial visit process. So I think the fact that he's coming to Waco and making that priority definitely gives the Bears a shot at getting one of those 5 coveted official visit spots.
Grayson, today Baylor offered Brendan Bett from Colleen Ellison. What do you know about Brendan Bett?
Yeah, a really good player and a big athlete. 6'5", 280 pounds. I think he's still a little bit raw as a prospect, but that's good. Baylor wants guys like that, and you don't find many guys with his size. Obviously, he played at Colleen Ellison. He plays there and with teammates with Devontae Savino, who was a Baylor signee in the 2022 class. So there's a connection there. The Central Texas wall that we've been talking about, how Baylor's trying to build that wall around Central Texas, it just continues, right? I mean, they're offering guys that they feel like are offerable, but also really prioritizing those guys that are in that area. So Brendan is a really good offer. I think he's going to be one that is going to continue to grow, and his film's going to get better next year as he continues to develop. And I think it's a pretty exciting one. And Baylor got in early enough where it's just Texas Tech and Colorado and SMU, I believe, right now. So plenty of room for the Bears to go in and build a relationship with him and try to win over his recruitment. So they should be in a pretty good spot, though, obviously, with Savino, and then, of course, the connections they have in that Central Texas and Killeen area.
Grayson, it's just names on a board when strength and conditioning puts out their, weightlifters of the day and whatnot. And there's only so much you can really gather from that. But it is interesting to kind of see the names that become repetitive and continue to show up, or names that maybe you wondered if the guy was even still on the team, and all of a sudden, oh, wait, there's his name. Has there been anything of interest that's popped out to you in regards to that? Just, maybe seeing a young player who's making a little noise in the weight room.
Yeah, I'll name a couple, but I think the one that is really standing out to me right now, and it's because Baylor has to find, who's going to play guard next year, who's going to take over for Xavier Newman-Johnson. And I think the kind of belief was that Micah Mascua would be that guy, would go in, play the guard spot. But I know others have talked about, maybe Khalil Keith moves to guard, and then maybe a tackle spot's open. But a guy that I've noticed on that list a ton has been Gavin Byers. And it seems like Gavin has really done a nice job trying to get his body to where it needs to be for him to have that same kind of physicality that they need in the run game. He's a very accomplished pass blocker. If you watch what he's done over the years, he can definitely pass block, but it's that run blocking, it's that nastiness, which comes from being stronger in the weight room and really putting on the gains that you need after high school to be able to really move people. And I'm really excited to see if Gavin really is putting on that strength, how that impacts his game, because I do think he's a guy that has a very high ceiling, and I think he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to compete for one of those starting spots for next year.
Everybody does weights. Everybody has a strength and conditioning staff and whatever, and they're pushed in the off season. It does seem as if, and I've always said that, you get these strength and conditioning staffs that come and go. What is the difference? Isn't it mainly just who can motivate these young men to do, or women who can to do more and more and more in the weight room?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is motivation, for sure. I think it's also, it has a lot to do with really liking the guys who are teaching you and molding you into the football player that you want to be. So I think that's a part of it too, right? You want to enjoy going to the weight room. You want to enjoy being around the coaches and the strength and conditioning staff, especially because those are the guys that you're around even more so than the coaches, to be honest. So it's definitely a big role, and I think it's one where if you look at what Vic Valoria has done with his staff, it just seems like they're resonating really, really well with the athletes. They're creating an environment that is really pushing these guys and creating that motivation that you're talking about, Smokey. And I think when you have that whole environment of good relationships, good vibes, a want to get better, a want to get stronger, it creates, really good rewards. And I think that's what we saw last fall, and that was in year one. So I think year two, you can expect another massive increase, especially for the offensive and defensive line guys.
We know how the quarterback situation played out last year and eventually the injury, but with both of them, Gary and of course in injury in the Big 12 championship game with also, God, I just went blank. Blake Shapen, I'm sorry. But I saw some videos of them in the weight room and Sean Bell had put out a Kyron Drones against Gary Bohannon squat. Like a competition. How much do those competitions help? Not so much you still have to throw the ball, you have to be able to stop the run, do all the things you do, but help with the leadership or gaining respect and trust from your teammates.
Yeah, I think it is an area where you can definitely gain trust and gain a sense of like, you look at this guy and you go, that guy's working hard. And that's the guy that I want, covering my back when I'm playing football. That's the guy I want on my team. And I think that's the biggest thing. These guys are going in there and working their tails off. And so to see those rewards and then see them do competitions against each other and the mutual respect there, yeah, it's a big thing. And I also think it just creates an environment of competition. And that's what you want, right? You want guys that are going to compete against each other and going to, try to be the best on the team. And I think all of these guys across the board, from seniors to freshmen, feel like they're the best players at their position, and you want that. You want guys that go out and try to prove that every single day. And I think that's kind of exactly what you want. And I think that's really building that culture that Dave Aranda and Vic Valoria and the strength staff is trying to build there. And it's really cool to see, honestly. These guys look like they're having a great time, and it looks like they're just really just pushing each other and trying to get better as a football team.
Grayson, big basketball game tomorrow, Kansas and Baylor. College game day is going to be there. Obviously, the first time around, the Jayhawks put it on them pretty good. And there's, of course, the race for the top of the Big 12 with just less than a handful of games to go. Your thoughts on this matchup tomorrow at the Farrell Center?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I think this is really, to me, this is all about respect for Baylor. Baylor got destroyed when they were in Lawrence. It was not competitive, not close. It looked like two different classes of teams. And so Baylor's got to go out there and really fight for that respect. Now, I don't think it's going to matter in the Big 12 standings. I think Kansas has built a little bit too big of a lead, and I don't think anyone's going to catch them. But obviously, if Baylor wants any shot at that, they have to win this game. But I think this is more about, like I said, respect and trying to get better as the season goes on. And I think this is the game that Baylor really needs for their confidence. To come back home to the Farrell Center, take on a team that really dominated you, and try to change that script and try to change the narrative on this whole season that everyone keeps talking about, the injuries and everything, that goes along with that. And yes, it's been a problem, but it's also like, this is still a really good team. And this is a team that still has high expectations and high hopes. Now, can they go out and get a marquee win despite the injuries, especially as the NCAA tournament, Big 12 tournament are all coming up? I'm really excited to see if Scott Drew can get these guys mentally and physically prepared for what is probably going to be a war on Saturday night.
Yeah, time to sharpen that blade with KU, then on the road against Texas Monday, and then a little bit of a break before Iowa State in the tournament. Grayson, thank you very much. Grayson and Craig, every Tuesday they do the Bearcast. It's put up in the premium section. It's also up on social media with their two Twitter accounts and SicEm365.com. We appreciate Grayson and his time. Coming up in the next hour, the NFL Combine's around the corner. We had talked about that with agent Drew Pittman about some of the give and take between agents, players, and the NFL and others. Logan Hall is a hometown kid from Belton, and he is among the top-rated defensive linemen in the draft. He played at Houston. It's a heck of a story, and he's next. Logan Hall on what's going on now with him and all the attention he's getting next on SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Right now, new car and pre-owned car inventory is arriving and constantly helping in the lot at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, and not every dealership can say that, and it's part of the deal. A lot of people are struggling with getting enough inventory for you, the customer. Right now, Allen Samuels has new and pre-owned that is really done. They've added to it, not like empty spaces, and that's a good thing because they have so many dealerships they're tied into around the country that it helps them out. Also, right now, the 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, Total value is up to $7,500 or as little as 0% financing for 72 months. First responders get an extra $500 in bonus cash. Also, the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee, total value, that's the L version edition. Total values of $2,000 for total values up to $2,000, and all responders, again, first responders, $500. Then there's the 2021 Chrysler 300, total values of $4,000 or 0% for 72 months and $2,000 bonus cash, and the 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, 0% financing for 72 months, $1,500 bonus cash on top of that, and first responders get an extra $500. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Tell Ted Teague we sent you at Sikkim 365 Radio. He listens all the time. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
This is your 54th District Judge, Susan Kelly. Appointed to the court by Governor Greg Abbott, I've worked hard to manage and move the docket, even during COVID. Board certified in criminal law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization and past president of the Waco Bar Association, you can be sure I apply the rule of law and deliver justice for all. Early voting starts February 14th, so be my Valentine and vote for justice. Keep Judge Kelly.
Political ad paid for by Susan Kelly from McLennan County Judge Campaign.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tips, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Flagler for three. Yes.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers. Staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. This last hour of this week, tomorrow. How about game day in town? Right now, there's a media session. Our Jack McKenzie is there. There was a Baylor media session as well. Basketball, women at 2 against Kansas. Men at 7 against Kansas. And then tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, ESPN College Game Day will broadcast. We've heard from Seth Greenberg and Jay Billis throughout the week, and we appreciate their time as well. And we'll hear, we think, here in a moment, Logan Hall, University of Houston defensive lineman from Belton High School, in just one moment. So tomorrow's busy, a very busy day, and students are going to be locked into the Farrell Center if they get there at 9 o'clock. Is that right? And have a chance to be a part of that, and then they'll be there for when everything starts to get going. I remember the first time they came, I think they played Texas that year. We had an RV and spent the night. We actually did our show out in front of the Farrell Center, and we had Jay Billis, Dick Vitale, others that were in the RV, had a great time. And then Zach, Casey, and yes, me, we all spent the night. Scott Drew came over. We had a little fire pit. We were doing all sorts of silly stuff and having a fun time and drinking water. And Scott Drew came over, knocked on our door as we were kind of winding things down, and had brought a big tray of those Crazy Wings. And he drove over in a golf cart just to make sure we were having food. He was thrilled. I wish we could do that more often. I'm the only one that probably feels that way, but it was so much fun.
Well, we did not have the RV. The reason I left was we didn't have the RV anchored properly, and it was ridiculously windy. So every 30 seconds it would jostle it, and it would wake you up. So you'd fall asleep, and then the wind would blow, and then
it was fine.
No.
It was absolutely fine. I remember.
I also lived 2 minutes away at that time, and sleeping 2 minutes away from my house in an RV seemed silly.
Elitist. We spent the night. Craig, you weren't here yet. You weren't working with us yet. It was so much fun. We had a great time.
No, that was a couple years, I think, before I got here. And I don't know, I think there might have been another case where you guys did something similar and I didn't take part. Just it wasn't my scene. But, yeah, I'm sure there's quite a little, a bit of excitement building up on campus. I mean, hopefully there is. I don't know. I haven't been over there.
Is there, Faith?
Hopefully there's some excitement being built up. If not, then that, well, hopefully there is in the next few hours. But, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Baylor fans to show up and show out and, have a great time and hopefully a great game. I mean, we've been talking all about it for days at this point. So, it's kind of how I am with everything else. I'm kind of ready to just watch it at this point and not hear too much more about it, just actually see it and then be able to talk about what actually happened. But, yeah, there's some excitement brewing, so it's fun.
Well, again, game day at 10. They'll have, of course, open, I think, the doors and all that around 8:30, and they'll do their deal. And, then I think a year later, or maybe that same year later in the fall, Baylor had played Kansas State at McLean Stadium, and we stayed out in an RV out there off in the across from the pedestrian bridge, and that was a lot of fun.
That one was better.
The students were lined up around the McLean Stadium. Oh, that RV was a monster. That was one of those that popped out each side. The other one did too, and it wasn't that windy. You were scared of the boogeyman. But Scott Drew came by with a tray full of Crazy Wings. He's just it's who he is. And he keeps bringing that up. It's been like 10 years, but he keeps bringing that up. We're awaiting Logan Hall. We've tried to contact him. Looking forward to talking to him about his climb up the charts. He was a mid-round type prospect when his senior year was wrapping up. And now, again, as I've mentioned, there's some mock drafts that have him even as high as late in the first day, in the first round, or for sure a second day pick as well. Kansas and Baylor, by the way. Kansas again with a 1.5 lead on Baylor and on Texas Tech. And so if they win tomorrow, even though Tech could still catch them, they win tomorrow, that pretty much sews it up with what Baylor can't do after winning the Big 12 regular season title last year. Remember how they did that last year, guys? They came off of COVID, struggled like they were running in mud against Iowa State, down 17 or 18, but won the game. Went to Lawrence and got beat up. Then had to travel to West Virginia. And it looked like, oh gosh. And they went into overtime, I think it was, to beat West Virginia.
Jared Butler's one of his best individual moments.
Meyer was huge that night. They won the game at West Virginia to win and clinch the Big 12 title regular season. I remember that. That game, they have had success there at that place, where in the past they had not had much of it. But and this year's game at West Virginia was a gut check game because of some of the times they've had players in and out of the lineup as well.
All right. Well, I've called Logan Hall 4 times and texted him once. So,
all right, I'm going to walk off and try to call it. I'll work on something.
Yeah. One more time, and he can report me to the police. So I don't want to mess with that. But yeah, I think about West Virginia, Craig, and they had Oscar Shibaway, and he transferred out last year, and how that's changed the trajectory of his career and their program.
Yeah.
He's the best player in the country right now. And what would it be like if he was still there? Like, how different would they be?
I don't know. That's sorry. That's just really random.
I know. We were talking West Virginia.
I don't know.
Trying to fill this before Logan Hall, and then
right. They'd obviously be different. And better off, I guess. But yeah, the transfer portal has had a major impact in all of college sports, and we've talked at great length about that. And Baylor's benefited from it as much as anybody. I mean, the national championship team doesn't happen if not for transfers. So, yeah, you could say that about a lot of guys, but certainly with Oscar Shibaway right now, it's, a question of or you play the what-if game. But it's an interesting landscape. I was actually just reading an article about the lack of a great attendance figures in college football. Seventh straight season that college football attendance has declined. Lowest average since 1980. All right. Lowest average since 1981. I guess we got Logan Hall here coming up. Maybe we get back to this. I don't know.
All right. We're now joined by University of Houston defensive lineman, NFL prospect Logan Hall from Belton High School. Joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Logan, hey, thanks for your time. It has been quite the journey for you, for where you were when you arrived at Belton High School, even when you arrived at Houston, to where you are right now. How have you handled a lot of the attention that seems to be moving you up in the draft?
To be honest, I try to, kind of tune it out. Obviously, some attention comes my way, and I have to acknowledge it, like this interview. But I just try and, keep to myself and keep my eyes ahead, and just keep working. Ultimately, that's the goal, to get better.
So, Logan, you're sophomore, junior year? You're about 210, 215, right?
At Belton, yeah.
Yeah, at Belton. What are you now?
I weighed in today at 285.
Those damn McNuggets and McDonald burgers can do that to you, can't they, Logan?
That protein shakes, right, Logan?
Yeah.
Right. Now, believe it or not, it's, salads and chicken breasts and rice, stuff like that. I try to stay away from the fast food.
Logan, how would you describe your development at Houston, and where do you felt your game got the best or improved the most over your time there at U of H, and who do you credit that for?
How would I describe my growth? I've just grown in so many different aspects. I don't even know what to say. But as far as what I've improved on the most, I would just say, my attention to detail, for one. That's a big thing that I have improved on. My strength, I've gotten much stronger, coming in since my freshman year. My preparation throughout the week, my pass rush, there's so many different things. I've just grown, in my tape displays at my senior year, jumping my statistics. I credit all of that to, my teammates, my brothers, Coach Early, the strength and conditioning staff. A lot of people are
when you ran hurdles in high school. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I was 110 in the 300 hurdler.
There aren't many 6'5" or 6 or 7 guys who run the hurdles. That showed to me, obviously, and a lot of people, the athleticism, and I think blew some people away. How long had you been running, and what was that like? Because I would think that not many other guys were your height.
No, yeah, I was definitely the tallest one out there every time. I don't think I've ever encountered somebody taller than me. But I've been running hurdles since elementary school, probably 4th grade. And, I did it all the way up all throughout high school, except for maybe minus a year. But yeah, I've been running hurdles for a long time, and I have, quite a bit of success at it. So, but yeah, it is kind of weird being a 6'6" hurdler.
A little bit different. What are pro scouts or whoever you're talking to telling you about what position you'll play? You've been on the defensive line. You've been inside. You look like you could be on the outside. I would think you'd be more on the edge, but what are they telling you?
So a lot of the conversations I've had, the guys were telling me that, at the frame I'm at right now, 280, I'd be an early down edge defender. So, first, second down, stopping the run. And then, coming inside as a sub rusher on passing downs. And they said that they see that kind of is my role where I'm at now, and they think I'd have a lot of success at it. But being that my frame is 6'6", I can put on as much as I'd say 310 pounds. I can get big, and my body can hold that weight well. So I 3 Tech is where I live at. It's where I'm most comfortable at. So I told them, if I could gain that weight and live inside the 3, I'm just as comfortable doing that. But ultimately, it's what they pay me to do. So.
Ed Oliver, Ed Oliver, came out of Houston, obviously having a great career with the Bills. What's the pipeline of the Houston Cougar defensive line and people starting to notice because of guys like Ed and you and others?
Yeah, it's just they just make them different, man. In Texas, we're all Texas guys. Went to Houston, and we just put Houston on the map. The way we play down there. The way we're coached, it's just the culture, it's a mentality, and the D lineman there now. That there's going to be some guys coming out this next year, I believe, as well. So, it's definitely the place to be as a D lineman, University of Houston.
So, Logan, Dana Holgorsen comes in last year, and it was a COVID year. Much like Dave Aranda here at Baylor, you can't really judge too much from COVID with just all that was going on. But you guys, had a fine year. But, this year in comparison, obviously a massive jump up, and having everything kind of, I guess, more normal probably helped. But what was the key to having such a big turnaround in year number 2? What was it like working with Dana Holgorsen, and why did it all work so well?
I would definitely say chemistry. Being able to get back in the building, get around the guys, get around the coaches, actually eat together, not be masked up, just have like real organic interactions and work, without like all the COVID, the hindrances of COVID, I would say that was definitely the recipe to success this year for us. Working with Dana, Dana's awesome. He did a great job. Great coach. Love him. We got a great relationship. Can't say enough good things about him, but yeah, I would definitely say just being able to come together. That was the key factor.
Your parents retired military. Your sister's a basketball star at Temple. Your older brother, ran track and cross country. So athleticism runs in the family. Who's the better athlete?
I think if you asked each one of us, we'd all give you different answers. But I think I'm the undisputed champ.
I think your sister's going to call you at any moment. But hey, Drew Pittman's your agent, and he got to know, I believe, your mother through his house being built. Is that correct? She's a part of the Chamber of Commerce in Salado. How did that all come about with you and him getting together as your agent?
Yeah, so it's funny. My mom actually met Drew, like you said, just through the Salado community. Because, he's lived there and she works there. And, she heard about him and heard about him, being an agent and representing athletes. So they started talking and whatnot. And then I had gotten into touch with him through her. And, we talked for a little bit and hit it off. And it was just a wrap, man. That's all she wrote. He's done a great job for me. got a lot of good things to say about Drew. He's awesome.
One of the things about Drew Pittman, he gets young men who are classy character, all high character, all of that as well. His Drew's the son-in-law of Grant Taft. His wife Lane, of course, Grant Taft's daughter as well. One last thing: Houston's going to be in the Big 12 in the next couple of years. What did that mean, or what will that mean, do you think, to the program when that day comes?
Oh, that's huge. It's awesome. Making the jump. I'm really excited for that to happen. I think it means, a whole lot to the university and to the city. That gives us the opportunity to, recruit bigger athletes, and it's just really exciting. We got some new facilities being built, centered around football and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see that really happen.
Yeah, did you see that picture they put out for the new football facilities yesterday? Yeah,
I did. It was sweet.
Yeah, you kind of like, well, where was this when I was playing? It's kind of right. You do all the work, and then like the other guys get to enjoy it. But no, I mean that's obviously something that you helped to build in a roundabout way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I definitely did see that. I was like, man, but I'm happy. The guys that come after me will get to enjoy that. It'll be a good deal.
I know you got to get back to work. We appreciate it. Good luck with all what you have coming in front of you on whatever night it is, when the commissioner or whoever says, with the X pick in the draft, whatever franchise selects Logan Hall, defensive lineman, University of Houston, what will be running through your mind?
Just gratitude, that's the relief, gratitude. Those are probably the number, the first things on my mind, my mom, everybody that's helped me throughout the way, God, my family, my teammates, just gratitude, man. Because I couldn't have done any of it without them. I owe it all to them, and just relief,
Well, you've proven people wrong because you've gotten bigger, better, faster, stronger. Everyone kind of was intrigued with your athleticism, your height, and your frame. Thank you, Logan. Appreciate your time. We will be in touch and hopefully have you on after the draft, and good luck.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate your time.
Great to have you on. Sam Skidmore, now the AD at Belton. They have two schools, Lake and Belton. Gave me some nuggets on him. We appreciate. Also, Drew Pittman, who set us up as well, who's been a great fan along with Lane of this show. This is Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you, it's too late this week to order the crawfish, the live crawfish at Waco Custom Marketplace. But every week until 6 o'clock, when they close the doors on Wednesdays, you can call them and order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. This week it was $4.25. No, it's $4.35 a pound. Last week it was $4.50 a pound. It fluctuates based on the availability, but man, it's unbelievable. And a lot of crawfish boils that start in February and then eventually last into the spring and early summer. Waco Custom Marketplace is a full-throttle bakery and butcher shop. They cook. They cut the best bone-in ribeyes I've ever had, usually about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick. They are delicious. The meat, the beef, the product they have, it's incredible. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Brad Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
And the commissioner joins us again on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on this very cold and frigid day in Texas and among other places around the country. Bob, thanks for your time. We do appreciate it. How much does the college football expansion delay affect in any way, one way or the other, the Big 12?
Well, first of all, let me say that this is my second ice storm of the winter, and I thought I got out of this when I left Iowa. But notwithstanding that, the CFP, there isn't any other way to say it. I've been frustrated, and I think the long and the short of it is if you don't want to do something, one excuse is as good as another. And I'm not real happy with where we landed, but it is what it is, and I think the playoff will expand. The silly part of this is that, another 12 months from now, or maybe 15 months from now, we're going to have to re-engage on these very same issues. And so it's not like we've solved anything, and I don't think we're going to find a period of real calm waters in the future. And so, there were those who thought it was just a terrible time to expand the playoff, and I disagree with that, mostly because I'm skeptical that we are headed for a period of calm water. I think we're going to continue to have student-athlete advocacy people. I think there are going to be continued court cases. I think there are going to be continued litigation. There's going to be continued interest by elected officials. And so we're going to have to go right back to this again in a very short period of time, and we'll be on the clock that time because, when we get through the next 4 playoff games, we don't have a playoff after that.
Why not, even if you said, okay, we don't have the conferences can agree, we don't have enough ducks in the row to do this next year or a year from now or a year from that. But why don't we go ahead and say that here's the playoff going forward? Wouldn't that have been productive if you couldn't get it done for 2 years, at least get it done 4 years from now?
That would have been just fine if they'd have agreed that, we're not gonna capture the extra $450 million in years 11 and 12, but this is going to be the model going forward. We actually spent some time talking about that, and there were still objections and still concerns and still assertions that wasn't the right time or we hadn't satisfactorily taken into account certain people's interests. And so, it's a fair question. It's the essence of my frustration, but I don't have the prerogative to stay frustrated. We have to go about the process of working through it, and now we're going to delay it for a while, and then we're going to have to work through it. Then we're going to be on the clock.
Bob, how much does the voting block or that alliance, so to speak, make things more difficult in terms of voting?
Well, not really very much. They each have their own reasons. Each of their reasons are different. And so, I don't see them as a voting block. They do have some business relationships together, just as we do with the SEC on the Sugar Bowl. So, they do have some things where they have similar interests, but in this particular case, each of their objections are different from the others, and so I don't know that they're acting in concert on this occasion.
There is talk about when you do add Brigham Young and then the other 3 from the American Conference, or whenever the timeline eventually of what happens with Texas and Oklahoma, regardless of that, are you wanting divisions or do you want the top 2 teams to play for a championship in football?
Well, it doesn't matter what I want. It matters what our athletic directors want to put in place, and they're going to listen to our football coaches as well. And, they'll ask me for my opinion at some point in time, but it's really an athletic director's decision. And there are strengths and weaknesses of any model. We've talked about the number of games, whether or not we want to stay at 9 or want to drop down and play 8 games and have 4 non-conference games. We've talked about divisions. We've talked about in some sports we might not play divisions. In other sports we may very well play divisions. So we have half a dozen subgroups of our athletics directors and our basketball operations, football operations folks that are working on those topics now, and eventually we're little by little we're snapping in the new members and getting them started so that we hear what their thoughts are on it. But I don't have any doubt we'll come to a conclusion on it, and we typically announce our football season's about a year ahead of time. Usually it's in October, and I don't see us having any problem meeting that deadline coming to this year. But there are still a lot of decisions to be made.
Do you think that every conference has the good of the overall college football picture as their goal, or do you think some of them will continue to put their own interests over the good of sustaining what a model would be to have college athletics the way that we can understand them?
Well, I wouldn't make any accusations around that. You'd have to ask others what they're thinking. But, I think part of the reason why we got to where we got to with the current playoff, and I was in the room at the time, and I was the only one of the commissioners, the A5 commissioners that was in the room, and it was kind of inspiring to see Jim Delaney and Mike Slive sort of lay down their weapons and say, okay, I'm gonna live with this if you can live with that. And there was a lot of give and take. And ultimately, we ended up with a 14 playoff that I think was a huge step forward. It's better than any of the predecessor structures. We have learned that larger and more access and more resources, maybe getting more networks involved with the televising of the playoff is going to be a good thing for us and a good thing for college football in general. So, you'd like to do what you can for your own league, but we all have to kind of keep our eyes on the prize and make sure that we don't do anything that's detrimental to our conference, certainly, but we also need to be thinking about what's in the best interest of the game.
Name, image, likeness, obviously a very hot topic. How has it unfolded compared to what maybe your original expectations were?
Well, as you may know, I was co-chair of a group that was looking at a whole bunch of information and trying to put some plans in place and I guess guardrails, if you will. We were still working on it in the last week of June with the July 1st deadline looming over us, and ultimately the NCAA legal team and leadership decided that they didn't want to get sued again, so they weren't going to put any guardrails in place. Obviously, I was disappointed with that. I thought it was a mistake, but we feel like we owe our membership a little more guidance than that. But in the end, it's easy to look back now and say I told you so. But we have a lot of issues and a lot of problems and a lot of new enterprises that would have been manageable in some measure, or at least would have been better off had we put some guardrails around it. So, whether or not we can go back now and unring the bell or put the toothpaste back in the tube or whatever analogy you want to put. Obviously, we're not going to compete with state law. We have to yield to state law where it exists. But you've even seen some states that have come back and said, "Whoa, this is way more complicated than we realized," and they've deregulated their rules, and so it's very much in flux. The thing you have to remember about it, though, is that, the July 1st came and went, and the sky didn't fall. We still are playing football games and basketball games. There are a few people that are highly publicized that have made big deals. But generally speaking, you look at an average college football team or a college men's or women's basketball team. There's maybe 10 or 15 kids on the football team that are making any serious money, and 3 or 4 kids on the basketball teams. And so, it isn't the end of the world that everybody thought it might be. But, with the transfer portal and some of those things, it was explicitly said in our discussions that NIL was not supposed to be arranged by the institution. It was not supposed to be an inducement for transfer or for initial enrollment. Those things were in the guardrails that we had put forth, and they're still what everybody believes, but there are no specific rules that prohibit those kinds of things from happening. And so, there are places that have taken advantage of it, and there are places that are waiting and seeing, and there's everything in between. And we still there's a lot of evolution in the NIL space that's going to take place in the years ahead.
Bob, there's the Sun Belt Conference is losing teams to the American Conference, and some are trying to get out others, and there's schedules, and now there's lawsuits or whatever. With what is happening with the teams joining the Big 12, Brigham Young is independent. They have their own timeline. But the others with UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati, how has that gone about their timeline? And is that going pretty smoothly with what they want to be able to do to get to your conference as soon as possible?
Well, in BYU's case, they do have a conference that they have to extricate themselves from. They're in the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga and St. Mary's and Santa Clara and those guys. And so, they've wanted to be respectful of the WCC, and they have been, but they've told us they're going to come in July of 23. The others, all 3 of them have said not later than July 1st, 24. but they all are working with the AAC to get themselves here on July 1st of 23. And so there are stipulations for extrication that involve money and waiting periods and notice periods and those kinds of things. And so they're working their way through it. We just made a visit to we being my senior staff and I at the conference to BYU last Thursday and Friday, and they're going to be a terrific new member as the Baylor faithful found out last fall. They have a good following, and they do things the right way at BYU, and so it's after visiting, I'm very excited about them coming in, and I'm confident that the others will come in 23 as well. So we expect to have them playing a full schedule by the time July 1st, 23 comes around, but they still do have some things to work out with their other conference.
There has been discussion at times about super conferences, whether that ever gets to that point or not. You would then have 12. Obviously, with Texas and Oklahoma still a part of the mix, it would be 14. Do you ever see the Big 12 looking further to get to 16, or do you feel like you just need to make sure you get to 12, have everything, the dust settled before you look at that as an option?
Well, I think it's probably the latter, although there could be circumstances that would lead us in a different direction. I think we've probably got all the change we can manage right now. But that notwithstanding, there may be opportunities down the road, and it's hard to tell where those opportunities could come from. But when we were doing the press conference for the 4 new members, I said very clearly, this may not be the last tranche of schools that we take, and so whether we would go to 16 or whether we'd go to 20, who knows? Might be something in between. But I don't know that there is a clear indication at this point in time that larger is specifically better. And there's always been a lot of talk about the super conferences, but you lose a lot when you get into the bigger alignments. You lose traditional rivals, which I think contribute greatly to in-house attendance. I think that's one of the real strengths that the Big 12 has had over the years is we played a full round robin in football and a full double round robin in men's and women's basketball. We play each other a lot, and as a result, I think our league is strong from top to bottom. I think the Big 12 is better from first place to last place than any other of the major conferences. I think we have very good balance in our major sports. Name one where there isn't great competition. And so, larger isn't necessarily better, but if we started to get indications that we could be helped by a larger alignment, we're certainly not going to foreclose on that at this point.
How are things going with Texas and OU's exit? I know that's got to be complicated in everything that goes on. Are you still expecting 2025 to be that drop dead day at this point?
Well, that's what they've told us, and that's what our grant of rights would indicate. So we don't have any reason to expect otherwise. But it has its rough points. There are things we talk about that perhaps you wouldn't want departing members to be discussing with you. On the other hand, it's my responsibility to make sure that the student athletes and the coaches of those two universities get fair competition however long they're here, and that we do the things that are appropriate in college athletics, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And so we're gonna make darn sure that they're treated properly, and that we do for them what we do for others, and that doesn't mean there aren't going to be some sharp edges, and that there aren't going to be some times where there are abrasions, but we're going to work very hard to make whatever time they have in the league as productive for them and for us as it possibly can be.
Bob, taking a look at basketball season, obviously there's been a lot of attention on the Big 12, 4 teams in the top 20 right now. Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas, and obviously Kansas as well, all in good position. And there'll be some other teams obviously in the postseason. You got 4 teams on the women's side ring. Just how do you feel like hoop season has gone so far on both the men's and women's side?
Well, pursuant to my earlier comment, on the men's side, you got West Virginia at the bottom, and they've got 3 wins in the league, and Oklahoma's got 4, and Iowa State's got 5. The amazing thing about Iowa State, they I guess they're 6-9 in the league right now, but I think they have 9 wins over quartile 1 teams. It's really indicative of what I was talking about from top to bottom. We've got good basketball teams, and I think the same is true on the women's side. As you mentioned, we've got 4 in the top 20, and but by the way, you got a big day in Waco on Saturdays with Baylor and Kansas on the women's side, and Baylor and who is it on the men's side?
Kansas women.
Oh, Kansas, yeah, those guys, yeah. So it's a big day in Waco and the Farrell Center, and that doesn't get any better than that. It's nice to have both men and the women competing for the championship.
Bob, one more thing on the TV contracts, the grant of rights. You mentioned that different conferences have different end dates. We know the ACC has a very long timeline. Do you ever, and have you ever been worried about that big, huge chunk of money drying up? Is it always going to keep going up, even with what you now have with the changes in the Big 12? Is it just always going to have a large chunk of money?
Well, it's a really good question, and it's one that we pose to ourselves and to our consultants frequently. But the one thing about it that I would say is about as comforting as anything is that live content, particularly live sports content, is kind of the coin of the realm. If you own live content, it's valuable. And there seems to be an almost insatiable appetite for it, particularly at the highest level, and we're going to continue to play at a very high level. And so, I think that while details change and some of the players change, as we've considered how we might market an expanded playoff to the broader audience, one of the indications we've got is that there are a lot of broadcast entities that would like to get into college football on a greater basis, and that would include regular season and the postseason as well. And we play at a high level, we recruit at a high level, and I think live content is always going to be really valuable. And so you never know how valuable until you get into the marketplace and start looking at how many suitors you have. Ideally, you'd like to have multiple organizations that are interested in your product. That's it's going to be like any other auction that drives price. So, I feel good about where we are. I feel good about our future alignment, and we've got a little more time, but in March of 24, we have a mandated negotiation with our current partners, ESPN and Fox, and we will either come to terms with them, or we'll end up taking it to the open marketplace. But I feel good about the content we have and the level of competition, and I think that the environment is changing. The migration from linear cable to streaming is alive and well, and yet live content's always going to be valuable.
Yeah, and when that day in late July happened, not to go backwards, but there were so many that thought there would just be a mass amount of money lost for each of the teams who remained or anyone who joined. Did you ever just believe that at any time at all, where you felt like that you were still going to end up on the other side with a really good situation for all the members of the Big 12?
Well, you don't lose big brands like Oklahoma and Texas and have no impact. It would be foolish to believe that there won't be some impact. But we went out and brought in the 4 best that we could find that were available. They all compete at a high level. They're big schools. They are in great areas. They are in great recruiting areas. And I just think that we did as well as we could possibly do. And there may be a reduction as a result of the inventory that Oklahoma and Texas take with them, but we're also bringing valuable content into the league. And we'll be back to 12 in a few years, and I like the 12. I think our competition is going to be as good as any in the country.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate your time again. Always appreciate your opportunity and access you give us.
Yeah, good to be with you guys, and be well, and don't get caught up in the ice.
Yes, sir. You too. That's Bob Bowlesby, Big 12 commissioner with us. There's a lot of things that he said that we have discussed quite a bit. All right, that's Bob Bowlesby from yesterday. Thought if, in fact, you did not hear it, you can always go on 365 Sports on YouTube and look it up. And speaking of that, Armstrong mentioned, and Jack too, that we now have another YouTube channel for our college basketball, which is Sikkim 360. It's 365 CBB. Is that right, Armstrong? CBB's 365. So all of our college basketball content will be on that particular channel as well. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about this morning with me, or overnight last night with me, with one of our great sponsors, and then Paul's Top 5. So late last night, I started having a toothache. At my age, that happens probably more than it needs to, or probably the normal. But I went to bed, and about 1 o'clock this morning, I woke up, and it was not good. It was awful. I couldn't sleep. I took a couple of pills, and not bad, but took a couple of things to just kind of alleviate the pain. Went back to bed, probably got 2 or 3 hours of sleep, didn't feel well. I eventually walked in to Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress and his staff, they are unbelievable. I eventually was able to see him, a couple of injections, did a couple of x-rays, and I feel a lot better. And my mouth was numb for a little bit, but I can't tell you about the customer service that Dr. Steve Childress and his staff gave me today, and it's not the first time. There was a time earlier last year, I guess it was last year, where I had the same pain in my lower right part of my jaw. He met me at his office on a Friday evening. Got away from dinner with his family to help me get through the pain. He is amazing. Stonewood Dental in Robinson. If you don't have a dentist, you're looking for one, that's an option that you will never regret.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 on Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue.
It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's Group meal.
Next in line. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Something a little different today. Top 5, who wins? This is the Action Star Face-Off. I'll start doing these kind of randomly throughout, but Fridays is when you kind of step back and have fun. And this is dedicated to Smokey, who has these questions to Craig and I all the time. Who would win, John Wick or this guy? So John Wick is only one of these, but there are different action movie face-offs based on, they're kind of matched up on similar character traits. We'll all have 30 seconds to make our case. Each. Okay. And there's a clock up there. When the buzzer goes off, your case is done. Okay, so I'll start this one, and then we'll kind of snake draft it through, and the next time who starts first. So number 5, James Bond versus Ethan Hunt, which would be Mission Impossible, Smokey. So I will say this: I'm going to go with James Bond here. He has much more reliable staff. It doesn't always rotate. Ethan Hunt's, he has one guy that's always there in Ving Rhames, but James Bond, much more reliable. He's always got Q. He's always got the country behind him. England's never really chasing James Bond, is where Ethan Hunt, America's always chasing him. I'll take James Bond here.
I'll take James Bond because all spy movies are basically based off James Bond.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the original. He's the OG. He's the guy. So yeah, I'm taking James Bond over Ethan Hunt. Mission Impossible's a very entertaining series, but give me the Bond movies. Give me the Bond, ladies. Give me the Bond weapons and all of that. Yeah, I'm going James Bond. He's the OG. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he wins because of the James Bond women. He's the original. So I don't even know much about Ethan Hunt. I don't think I ever watched Mission Impossible with him. So I'm out.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. James Bond unanimously. All right, let's go to number 4 with some time to spare. Number 4, John McClane of Die Hard versus Martin Riggs of Lethal Weapon. Smokey, this is yours to start.
John McClane. That's Bruce Willis, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. He's got to be, because they was that the Christmas movie as well?
Yes.
Okay, we debated that. No, I'm not even going to talk about it. I don't even know who Martin Riggs is.
You never saw Lethal Weapon?
Not that one.
Mel Gibson and Danny Glover?
Is that Mel Gibson?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can't tell by that picture. No, it's got to be. It's Bruce Willis.
All right, Craig.
I'll go John McClane. Let's go Die Hard here. Lethal Weapon was good for what it was, but I prefer Die Hard and McClane. I mean, taking on the Russians all by himself. We could use him right now, that's for sure. But yeah, I'll go John McClane and Die Hard.
Yeah, I'll also have to go John McClane on this one. I think it's the greatest action movie ever made, Die Hard, and while Lethal Weapons are all great, Die Hard, the original Die Hard, singly the greatest action movie ever made.
Really?
Yes. I mean, as far as just a pure action movie that's not trying to be anything other than an action movie, Die Hard is that.
Yeah, I would take that. Danny Glover, though, you may change that up if it was Danny Glover.
Well, Danny Glover is the sane one.
He's the Ed McMahon of
it.
Right. Yeah.
All right, number 3, Predator versus the Terminator. Craig, this is yours.
I never really got into these types of movies. I mean, like action movies are I like them, but like as far as like Predator and Terminator and Aliens and all that, like that was never really my bag. But I got to go with Terminator here. I mean, there's a bunch of different Predators. I know there's a bunch of different Terminators too, but it's Arnold, man. It's Arnold, and the whole battle, I think, would be pretty fast. Haven't they done like video games or crossovers or something like that with Predator and Terminator? I thought, or Alien and Predator. I know they've done that, but yeah, give me Terminator in this one.
All right, Smokey.
Wow, Faith with the buzzer.
Yeah,
I'll take Arnold. He had a quote. What was the quote that he had?
I'll be back.
Yeah, I liked it. I never watched The Predator. Right, and that's a real person against somebody who's a machine.
Well, they're both. Well, they're both. The Predator is
non-human.
Non-human. Terminator's a robot.
Well, but Terminator's a human. I'll go with him.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Predator here. Terminators always lose in the end. Predator doesn't always lose.
Looks
Predator,
like a fly.
Has wins. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in both these movies. So he was in the original Predator movie. Get to the chopper. That was Arnold. So I will take Predator because sometimes they win, as where the Terminators seemingly always lose.
True.
So I will go with the Predator for that. Number 2, back to the top here. The Equalizer versus Nobody.
I can make a case that, Nobody might have ultimately been more entertaining upon rewatch, but yeah, I'm going Denzel. I'm going Denzel over Nobody. I got to go with Denzel. I think that Nobody actually did a bit more, like expanded a bit more than Equalizer did. Equalizer 2 was good as well, but yeah, I'm going to go with Denzel.
Well, I mean, Denzel's my favorite actor. I want to interview him one day. I'd never heard of this other thing until about 2 weeks ago when you guys and I watched it. And it's an incredible movie. I was like, what are we doing here? And then he ends up killing everybody. Very similar when they go back to the business to set up an ambush.
Yeah.
But how about me remembering that?
That's why I picked it, yeah.
But I'm taking...
Well, Nobody's basically Equalizer, like part 2 almost in a way. So I'm going with the original again.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Denzel.
Here's the thing. I'm going to go against Denzel because the Nobody's character had a little bit of a darker past than the Equalizer, although they both did some shady stuff for the CIA. I'm going to go with Nobody just because he seems to have less compassion.
When was the train scene when Denzel killed like 4 guys in the cab? Remember?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's...
Well, he's the one that kept coming out of retirement. Like they both, that's a great, that's very, very similar. But I'm going with Denzel. Denzel 2-1 wins.
All right, here we go. This is on a tear Smokey asunder here. Number 1, John Wick versus Man on Fire Denzel. Both men unhinged, out for revenge. John Wick for his dog. Man on Creasy for Dakota Fanning, who'd been kidnapped.
Man on Fire is a really great movie. I enjoy it. It's rewatchable to me. I've seen it multiple times, but he's not touching John Wick. I mean, it's not even a question. Like, this isn't even a debate. He's not touching John Wick. John Wick fell off a freaking building and then got up and just limped off and then, came back for another movie and just killed like 1,000 people with his own hands and a pistol. So, yeah, I mean, John Wick, it'd be like you could do pretty much every action star versus John Wick, and he's probably beaten like 90% of them, honestly, in my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, Smokey? I'm going John Wick for everything that Craig just said.
No, John Wick movies are ones that you can pick up 8 minutes into it or 2 hours into it, and it's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to go against my favorite actor here.
Wow.
I am. Well, wait a minute, because if they had to do a sprint, Denzel wins because Denzel wins, he doesn't limp.
Well, he's in this particular movie, he's bleeding to death the whole time.
Yeah,
He's
injured this whole second half of the movie, basically.
All right, I know the buzzer's going up. I'll take John Wick against Denzel.
Oh, wow. Smokey went against Denzel, which is why I set it up that way. So that way one day Denzel will see this and go, my man.
What are those things, those coins or whatever they have in that hotel?
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's what he pays with.
I love John Wick. Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Paul. Thank you very much. Introduce family.
Yeah. My girlfriend Amanda and her brother Rami are here. They're both big KU fans, so don't hold it against me.
Boo,
our owners of this company.
Boo.
Yeah. I'm worried we're going to get a rock chalk here.
We are going to have auditions for the third co-host starting, in fact, on Monday. Also, Emery Winter. Thanks, Emery, for a great week. Faith, enjoy practice tonight at the Farrell Center, part of Baylor Volleyball. And also, Armstrong Sims, take care of your back. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, and everyone else, including you, who watch and listen to us every day on Sikkim 365 Radio and YouTube 365 Sports, and our sponsors who make this happen since day one. Have a great weekend. Baylor, Kansas tomorrow. Game day at 10. The game at 7. Should be fun. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.